But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
I don't know if it was a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
He says there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1,
Doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It's Wednesday night, which is one of the nights we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. You know what those things are. Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. As usual, we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, D-Live, and Twitter, and of course, we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. And as always, this is a conversation. This is not just me rattling on about some crazy things, though we do an awful lot of that. But it is a conversation between you and me and all the rest of us as we get together and start talking about amazing things and considering amazing things. I have no inside sources. I'm just little old me, and I have the interwebs at my disposal, just as you do. And there's a lot of amazing things on the interwebs, if you know what I mean. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it's in between, because there's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of BS, there's a lot of, everywhere in between. There's counter propaganda to hit the propaganda, and then, it seems like people are just not really interested in, just being very truthful about anything anymore. It's unfortunate. It's one of those things where it does kind of hit me in the heart a little bit, because I don't like people, let's say, being intentionally obtuse and being swindlers and all the rest of that. I don't like it. It gets at me because, again, this is not a cult. This is not what's happening here. Just a conversation. It's a conversation that goes from day to day. I'm calling it the great conversation, even, because, well, my ego's as big as the sun. And so, well, with that aside, we're going to get to some crazy stuff tonight. But the whole point of bringing up a conversation is it's about you. In the end, all these things, we do something on this show called drinking the maybe juice. And of course, what that means is that it's just a simple thing. Old school Aristotle said that it is the mark of an educated mind to consider a thought without accepting it. And we call that drinking the maybe juice. So that's what we do here, considering, there's a whole lot of information regarding ancient aliens and regarding things like this, right? And of course, whatever that means is whatever you think it means, because reality has become what I'm calling a slippery fish in a post-truth world with all the media zigging and zagging and doing all the BS that it does. It's really left up to you to make what you will of your own reality. And that's what this show is all about. Just having a discussion about those things. What do you believe and why do you believe it? And that's my long-winded way of saying I don't have inside sources, because the secret weapon of troubled minds is, of course, you. And so we have an open phone line, several of them, as a matter of fact. If you want to be part of the show tonight, you can give us a call at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and we'll put you on the show. It's as simple as that. You can also join the Discord at troubledminds.org, and we'll put you on the show that way as well. Just jump in the caller queue. Let me know in the chat you're there, and I'll come say hi and pull you onto the show. A few more things. We, of course, like I said, we're streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter. Watching all the chat in all those places, trying to do my best to keep up with all your amazing thoughts. And as we go, incorporate those ideas into the live show here. And let's see, what else? Then we got broadcasting on Fringe FM. I said that. And then we've got... please join the Fringe Discord as well. I'm watching the chat over there, and you can join that at fringe.fm/chat. That will give you a direct invite. And also, please download the Fringe app. You can find that at Android or the Apple app stores. It's completely free, and it's the easiest way to listen to Troubled Minds at 7 p.m. Pacific, Monday through Thursday. You just smash the play button on the app, and you get me. You get you get us, and you get all of the rest of the amazing programming that happens on the Fringe FM. All right, let's do it. Let's get to this. Now, there's a whole lot of stuff going on, of course, in the news cycles. And, there's some UFO news that hit today regarding some Pentagon stuff. And, as this one guy that got fired for being kind of a Pentagon D-bag and all the rest of this, right? Kind of UFO-related news. It's interesting. A lot of people are jumping all over this. But as you know, Troubled Minds, we do things a little bit differently in that when everybody zigs, we typically zag. Because if the actual, let's say, entire alt media, the UFO community is going to jump all over one particular story, well, we're not. I mean, that's just the way it is, right? If you tune into everything and they're all talking about the same stuff, it's the easiest way to get you to tune out. So I like to give you guys something a little bit different. So we're going to do a little bit different tonight and talk about some ancient civilizations. We're going to go a little bit Graham Hancock on you guys and wonder who the ancients actually were. All right, so let's get to this. This is where this begins and where my mind's at tonight as we go. Science Alert reported this, and much has been made of course, the alignment of the pyramids, okay? Orion's belt and that whole bit. We'll get into that a little bit tonight as well. But so this just came out, and this is brand new, April 7th, 2022, and they're discussing, well, the secret of the pyramid's perfect alignment might be explained after all. Okay, well, all right, that's fine. I'm okay with that. If you're okay with that, let's read a little bit of this. It goes like this. For centuries, the pyramids of Giza have puzzled researchers, not just their mysterious voids and hidden chambers, but exactly how ancient Egyptians built such impressive structures without modern technology. One of the most confounding issues is how the structures became so perfectly aligned. Although it is slightly lopsided, overall the square sides of the 138.8 meter Great Pyramid of Giza, also known as the Great Pyramid of Khufu, are pretty damn straight from the article here, and aligned almost perfectly along the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. Quote, the builders of the Great Pyramid of Khufu aligned the great monument to the cardinal points with an accuracy of better than 4 minutes of arc, or 1/15th of 1 degree, archaeologist and engineer Glenn Dash explained in a study published in 2017 in the Journal of Ancient Egyptian Architecture. In fact, all three of the largest Egyptian pyramids, two at Giza and one at Dashur, are remarkably aligned in a way you wouldn't expect to see from an era without drones, blueprints, and computers. Quote, all three pyramids exhibit the same manner of error. They are rotated slightly counterclockwise from the cardinal points, Dash wrote. While many hypotheses exist as to how they did this, using the pole star to align the pyramids or the sun's shadow, it's never been fully clear how these worked. And so Dash came up with another, simpler idea. His study suggested that the Egyptians roughly 4,500 years ago could have used the autumn equinox, let's say, because I can't say that word, to achieve perfect alignment. The equinox is regarded as the moment twice a year when the plane of Earth's equator passes through the center of the sun's disk, and the length of day and night are pretty much equal. All right, he's got a nice little way to exhibit exactly how they did this using the sun on the autumn equinox, and you can see this if you guys are watching the stream, what this exactly looks like and how they got the exact directions of east and west with the precession of the sun and on that particular day. So interesting, of course, that not just this, but many of these things, right? Again, we've heard a lot of this stuff with the pyramids being aligned just perfectly, right? Or, just basically lined up exactly like the Orion's belt in the cosmos, right? And so it makes you wonder, right? There's been a lot of connections made with this, and of course we know that ancient astronaut theorists say yes. But what do you think? Do you think that this is, again, so we're going to get to some Graham Hancock tonight as well, where he suggests actually the pyramids themselves were not built 4,500 years ago as the actual mainstream theory suggests, but that instead they were built some 10,500 years ago, and there are reasons for them to believe that. Again, there's an actual book that he wrote called Fingerprints of the Gods, and in that he sort of postulates exactly why they believe this to be the case. And of course, as you would expect, right, in this type of thing, you got to take all of this with a grain of salt, including let's say even the mainstream sort of take on a lot of this, because they're doing their best, of course, to figure things out, but without actual knowledge, I think that it's not like you would expect, right? The world isn't always like we would expect, right? And I think that's part of the process here tonight. Trying to find out what you think about this. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. The question tonight is this, all right? We're talking about the progenitor civilization. If you go back to maybe 10,500 years ago, or even further back than that, there's been some suggestions the world over that, they built pyramids in Mesoamerica. They built pyramids in Egypt. There's pyramids in Bosnia. There's pyramids in China and Russia, they say. There's pyramids in Antarctica, they say. All kinds of different places, right? And it makes you wonder if instead of this just being like probably the most solid base, like they say, geometrically solid in building these things, is there's more than just that reason why there's pyramids all over the damn world. And this is just me speaking, but the question becomes, do you think they all learned it from the same source? And so that source would, of course, be that progenitor civilization, which, what's up, Tim, in the chat? Pyramids on Mars, even. There you go. Ancient astronaut theorists say yes. So okay. So the question tonight is this, as we begin, is do you think somehow, some way, like let's say just the pyramid connection, but of course there's Neolithic sites the world over that maybe have some similarities and maybe do trace back to this progenitor civilization. Do you think that's possible? Or do you think, again, there is some sort of coincidence in the building of these pyramids all over the world because, of course, like I said, geometrically the most stable, it's easiest to maybe put things together because you have a slope going up and, all the rest of this stuff. I don't know. You guys tell me. That's the question tonight. The first question is, do you think it is possible there's a progenitor civilization where all human civilizations actually come from? And I know there's a lot of criticism with this idea. It's many have even called it a racist for considering, I don't know. I'm not trying to say any of that stuff. I'm asking you what you believe regarding this, okay? And so, well, there we go. That's the first question. The second question is, if there is a progenitor civilization, did I say that right? I think I said that right. Who are they? Who were they? And, well, let's, again, as you know, nonlinear, open-ended. And is this something worthy of discussion? Because, of course, here we are discussing it, so I hope so. But, okay, so that's what's going on here. I don't know. I don't have the answers to this stuff. As you know me, this is not the answer show. This is the question show. But what do you believe regarding this? Okay, we'll get to some more of this again. And so we got the perfect alignment again. So the in this Science Alert article written by Fiona McDonald, again, April 7th, 2022, They're saying that they discovered how they actually did. They actually lined up the pyramids to be just perfectly off together, right? They aren't exactly to the four cardinal directions. They're actually just a smidge off, counterclockwise in the exact same, the exact same like minor little twist, okay? So here we go. So what they did, Dash actually did his own experiment, starting on the first day of the fall equinox in 2016, and using a gnomon, GNOMON, to cast a shadow. He tracked the point of the shadow at regular intervals, forming a smooth curve of points. And at the end of the day, with a taut piece of string wrapped around the pole, he intercepted 2 of the points of the curve and created an almost perfect line running east-west. This is also known as the Indian circle method, and you can see it in action below. And there's that graphic again if you guys are watching the stream. So, quote, on the equinox, the surveyor will find that the tip of the shadow runs in a straight line and nearly perfectly east-west, wrote Dash. He also showed that the degree of error is slightly counterclockwise, which is similar to the slight error found in the alignment of the Khufu and Khafre pyramids at Giza and the Red Pyramid at Darshur. The experiment was conducted in Connecticut, United States, but Dash said the same thing should work in Egypt. In fact, all Egyptians, ancient Egyptians, would have needed to align the pyramids. Dash explained all they would have needed was a clear, sunny day. And there you go. So he's got the idea that it's like this, okay? And again, we've talked about this in the past of, who built the pyramids, and there's some speculation. I'm not so sure I believe the fact that maybe aliens built the pyramids, as the ancient astronaut theorists would say. But it does seem to be that it is we've talked about this also, that it is the last remaining, not only the first, but the last remaining wonder of the ancient world. This is one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And so it even has outlasted all the rest even. And I think that there's, something majestic about this, about the idea that many thousands of years ago that humans, little old humans, flesh and blood, were able to put together these gigantic, let's say, Neolithic monstrosities, and let's say majestic monstrosities, because I'm not sure that's ever been used in the same sentence in the history of the world. So let's try and do that. But I think, I don't know. Like, to me, I've never been there. I've never been to the pyramids myself, to Egypt. I have been, and I know I said this before in the past, and you guys are going to laugh at me because I do live in Las Vegas. I've been to the Hoover Dam, and that's a damn lot of concrete, and it is very, very, very impressive. Even in modern times, right? We're talking about the 1930s, I believe, is when the Hoover Dam was created. I still maintain, if you've never been there, the Hoover Dam kind of ain't got anything on or the pyramids ain't got anything on the Hoover Dam, because that's a modern wonder. If you guys haven't seen that is a ton of concrete, like literally many tons. But anyway, so what are your thoughts on this? So again, back to the questions. So do you believe somehow, some way, that there is an ancient progenitor civilization, okay, that we all came from one place, and maybe Atlantis or Lemuria, things like this? But then in the second step, if so, who were those ancient people? Or were they people at all? Were they people at all? What's up? Fred says it's pretty cool, Mike. Why Music says great granddad worked on the Hoover Dam. Yeah, and they had some people die up there doing it, and I'm telling you, it is so incredibly huge. All of that, the concrete structure, not just of the dam itself, but everywhere around it. It's an incredible piece of modern. What would you call it? Not architecture, but modern engineering, for sure. Pretty good stuff. What's up? Kelly says humans didn't build any of these ancient sites. None of them. All right. Well, that's what we're talking about tonight. So, like I said, I'm not. I don't know. I don't know where I stand on that stuff as far as my take goes, but it's less important for me. As we start, though, I want to point this out, and this is what got me thinking in terms of this tonight. Now I'll save the quotes for later. All right. Okay. But anyway, so what are your thoughts on this? So we got this guy that says that he was able to find out how they perfectly aligned these pyramids. All right, so let's get to this. Now, there's the next thing, and this is the idea that the Orion's belt is actually how they aligned the pyramids, right? And they're again, if you overlay them on top of each other, you can see that they're just slightly almost perfect, right? Just almost perfect with the let's see, let's find this. Can I get it? Yeah, I can't get the map. Hold on. Let me find it. Anyway, so they're just slightly off. There it is. There's the map on the right side. So, okay, here we go. This is the Orion correlation theory, and they call it a fringe theory in alternative Egyptology, all right? It posits that there is a correlation between the location of the three largest pyramids of the Giza pyramid complex and Orion's belt of the constellation Orion, and that this correlation was intended as such by the original builders of the Giza pyramid complex. The stars of Orion were associated with Osiris, the god of rebirth and afterlife by the ancient Egyptians. This is straight from the Ministry of Truth, of course, Wikipedia. And depending on the version of the theory, additional pyramids can be included to complete the picture of the Orion constellation, and the Nile River can be included to match with the Milky Way. The theory was first published in 1989 in Discussions in Egyptology, Volume 13. It was the object of a bestseller, The Orion Mystery, in 1994, as well as a BBC documentary, The Great Pyramid, Gateway to the Stars, and appears in some New Age books. So, there we go. So there's a couple different ideas. We get actual modern archaeology, anthropology, sort of doing some experiments and saying, well, this is probably how the ancient Egyptians were able to handle this. And with that said, like I said, it doesn't really matter what I believe about this. It matters what you believe. We're going to talk about this ancient possible progenitor civilization, and who were these ancients. And I've been watching a lot of Stargate SG-1 recently. I didn't watch it way back in the 90s or whenever it came out, and I have been having a lot of fun with it. I just got into season 8, and it sort of it tickled me a little bit, my brain, let's say, when I saw this, The Secret of the Pyramids, Perfect Alignment, and Science Alert, and I thought about that ancient group of whoever they were way back when. And in Stargate SG-1, of course, it's just a fictional television show, but they do call maybe an intergalactic progenitor alien species. They do call them the ancients, and they were supposedly the ones, of course, in the Stargate fiction, that had created the Stargate system itself, and they're known as the Ancients. And they are now all but extinct because they've ascended or something to this effect. Not too many spoilers, but yeah, if you guys have seen that and you know what I'm talking about, it kind of makes me wonder if there is maybe a human version of the Ancients, of the ancient races, and this progenitor sort of civilization. So that's what's on my mind tonight as we begin. There's a lot more we can get into, some of the Graham Hancock stuff, and some of the pyramids being maybe 10,500 years old instead of, as modern archaeology suspects, 4,500 years old. That's quite a difference there. And, like I said, it depends on what you think about Graham Hancock, of course. Some people think he's a quack. Some people think he's brilliant. And it's not up to me. It's up to you to decide. So there we go. So that's where we're at tonight. That's what kind of sets this up. And it makes me also wonder, who would the ancients actually be? And there you go. Back to the show. Primordials, like in Marvel. Yeah, we got some of that stuff we'll get to as well. Links down in the description. But so do you think, again, that the pyramids themselves were aligned with Orion's belt? Do you think it was an accident? Do you think it was a coincidence? Do you think they did this intentionally for some reason other than just sort of mirroring what they see in the night sky? Or do you think there's something more to it? And of course, we know what ancient astronaut theorists would say because, well, we know what they say. But what about the next step? I see you there, Robert. Sorry about that. I'll get to you as soon as we come back from the break. But that's what I want to know. What's on your mind? Or that's what's on my mind tonight. But what do you think regarding this ancient progenitor civilization, and who actually were the ancients of old? And there we go. I think that probably rounds us out as we do this and talk about all kinds of amazing stuff, because this is Troubled Minds after all. So that's what's going on. And like I said, thanks, Robert, for being patient. I'll get to you as soon as we come back from the break here. But what do you believe? Do you believe the mainstream take? Do you believe the Graham Hancock take? Do you think reality is far more exotic than any of that? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More progenitor civilization, the ancients, Troubled Minds, and your phone calls when we return. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. Tonight, we're taking your phone calls as we discuss the idea of a progenitor civilization. Who were the ancients? And we're talking about Graham Hancock and the pyramids and all the rest of this stuff. And as usual, it's not about what I believe, it's about what you believe. Do you think it's possible? Somewhere out there in history, there's a race of ancients, advanced or otherwise, that we're all descended from. And of course, in the ancient astronaut theorists say yes. I'm not sure what I say, but what do you say? 702-957-1037. We'll put you on the show just like this. Let's go to Robert in Pennsylvania. Thanks for being patient, my friend. You're on Troubled Minds. Go right ahead.
I got my Troubled Minds hat on, and it's fascinating. It's almost like there's a charge that goes through the brain when you're wearing that thing.
Now you know why. Now you know why I seem so crazy all the time.
And it fills your brain up with maybe thoughts.
There you go. Maybe thoughts. I love it. I love it. So what are your maybe thoughts here? Do you think there is a progenitor civilization that's maybe a little more spooky or out there than we think? Or do you think not at all? Do you think maybe the mainstream archaeologists have it right this time? What are your thoughts, my friend?
Of course, the mainstream archaeologists don't have it right, and probably a good percentage of them know they don't have it right, but they can't admit it because then they would lose their careers. I'm absolutely convinced that it was that the beginning of its civilizations on this planet started from immigrations from Mars. Take a look at our solar system. We have pyramids here on Earth. We have there's been pyramids seen on the Moon, and now there's pyramids seen on Mars. I haven't seen any information that there's ever been any pyramids seen on Saturn or Mercury or Venus or any of the other planets and their satellites. So you just start to calculate. Well, there's pyramids on Mars. There's pyramids on Earth. All right. There's still life on Earth. There's no life on Mars. All right. So you do the little calculations in your mind, and you come up with, well, that's a good clue that a whole bunch of civilization, or at least some very well-off people from that civilization, when that civilization had destroyed itself, was immigrating to the Earth to save themselves.
Oops, I muted myself. Okay. Go ahead.
And they built the pyramids. They built the whole civilization, and they enslaved. The humanoids that were us back in those days. You know that story. Who is it, Jay or somebody that's always bringing up about Inky and all that stuff and those legends? Well, I think there's probably a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, that's Kelly, and you're talking about the Anunnaki. That's the Sitchin theory of the those tablets, the old Sumerian tablets. Yeah. So interesting, and this is why I framed the question exactly like this, because as Advent says in the chat there, that personally I think the progenitors would be way older than the pyramids by either date, and that's exactly my point. So if it goes back further and further and further, in which we keep finding evidence of, at least here on Earth, the question becomes: is the progenitor race civilization, whoever these individuals were or are still, because some people say they still exist, whatever they've become, right? But where did they come from? And I like your take. I like the take on Mars and all the rest of this. So you think that there's no coincidence that pyramids are all over the world, and even on Mars or Antarctica and all the rest of this, that it's related, and it's related to more of a, let's say, galactic family. That's probably a good way to put it.
It's like the evidence is there right in front of your nose. All right, and because it's so profound, it has to be, it has to be ignored and thought to be something else. I mean, it really is. It's right there in front of our noses.
Okay, I'm with you. I've seen some of that evidence as well, and I know, like the whole idea, right, is to throw the question out and see what we think. So you guys know I'm not going to try and make the case specifically, but that's why we kind of do it in this format. So you think for sure, there's like it goes back many hundreds of thousands of years or whatever, or even millions.
I think Hancock has got it right when he looks at when he's I read his book a long time ago, and the marks at the base of the Sphinx indicate that erosion was caused by a flood. That particular part of the world was an oasis at one time, and there was and so if that is fact true, then he'd be quite correct to say that the Sphinx itself is 25 to 26,000 years old.
Yeah, and I do like that one, not just in terms of sort of drinking the maybe juice, but it seems like, like we were talking about the ancient wonders of the world, the 7 ancient wonders, this thing's still standing. And it seems like it's going to outlast, the 7 modern wonders of the world, which is pretty outrageous to me. So, yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. The idea is great, and I'm with you there. What else you got?
There's still one question left.
Sure.
There's still one question left. Why were those that ancient civilizations so focused on Orion? Let's say that they immigrated from Mars when that civilization was destroying itself, which is almost close to being repeated here on Earth. Why would they be so focused on Orion?
That's a good question. And I think we should add it to the list of questions tonight. You're correct. Do you have a theory
there?
Well,
my hat's sending a maybe thought into my brain, and it's saying, you know why? Because they were so advanced that they knew the whole truth about life and death, and that Orion is really where we go to, where life goes to when it dies.
Okay, so it's sort of built into that the idea of reincarnation, and that's maybe at least the direction we go, where the soul goes to maybe reincarnate and then come back, something like that.
Sure, and they would be so advanced that they would already know that. Our own civilization is close to finally lifting the veil on all that. That civilization would have lifted the veil on that a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I don't know, like I said, you know me, I don't have answers here, but I do think it's fascinating stuff. What's up, Todd in the chat says, simple answer is Orion is very noticeable in the sky. And that's true. That's very true. You can always go for simple answers here as well. And that's why this is a conversation. So who do you think were the ancients then? If we're talking about, so we have a progenitor civilization, you think they came from Mars. Who were they? Do you think that we've sort of become part of them now, or do you think that it's a separate thing entirely?
I would imagine that they were probably because the gravity is less on Mars, that they'd be a lot taller than us, and that matter of fact they may be what is the mythology of the giants. They may have been really, really tall people. I suspect that they were. And then they enslaved the primitive people that we were back then to do their mining and things like that. But they also had the ability to do the pyramids by canceling out gravity. If they had spaceships that cancel gravity, like they do today, the UFOs we see today, then that's certainly that ability, that technology could be used to cut and levitate stone and make a perfect seal that you can't put a piece of paper through. That seems to me, it just seems to me so easy to figure out, And there's one other question that comes to me, and I'm thinking to myself, why is Elon Musk so obsessed with getting to Mars? Right? Does he have some kind of cellular memory of a past life where he was some kind of, multi-billionaire on Mars, and was he one of the ones that was on the ships that migrated from Mars to Earth?
There you go. Are you saying he's somehow related to the ancients? I love it. I
think that if you buy into reincarnation theory, all of us have cellular memories of all of our past lives. So would he, and he's basically repeating. If this is maybe juice now, okay?
Sure, of course.
If he's basically repeating the life he led on Mars as somebody who was a great industrialist, a great built technology and had the resources with a bunch of his other friends to immigrate to Mars before there was a complete disaster, immigrate from Mars to Earth, he would have a cellular memory of that. Kind of like, we get this instinct in our deep down in our cavities about going home. All right, we see that as heaven. We want to go home. All right, and I think that's where his what his motivation is. He may not recognize it, but deep down in his cellular memory, he's trying to go home.
Yeah, he certainly seems to be drawn there, doesn't he? 100%. That's for damn sure. It makes you wonder what he knows that we don't. Huh? That's a good point. I think that man knows a heck of a lot more than most people do. And I mean, otherwise, why bother? I mean, it's a desolate planet. I mean, you would say, why is that? Why would that grip him like that? And I really do. I think he's following his cellular memory, and he's just trying to get home. And the only way he can get home is to go from EVs to rocket ships and evolve into doing just that. I'm not saying that he will go to Mars, but I think he will, and I think he'll perish there. But I really do. I think he has a cellular memory of having lived there. Right on. I love the theory. Good stuff. As you know, we'll keep an eye on the Elon Musk story and see if he goes. Have you heard this, by the way, that Werner von Braun actually was part of a story written about the name Elon associated with the colonization of Mars way back in in 1952?
Nope, never heard that story.
Okay.
Maybe you could tell. I'm going to get off the phone, and maybe you can brief the rest of us on that story.
Okay, you got it.
Okay?
You got it. Pleasure's mine. Thank you. Appreciate the call, Robert. Have a great night. There you go. That's Robert in Pennsylvania. He's got a book called Stories from a Fractured Mind, the Robert Collection. I read it. He sent me a couple copies, and check it out. Links in the description. Good dude, good friend of mine, good friend of the show. What do you think? I like the theory. I like the theory that, we've kind of heard this, the idea of the Graham Hancock and maybe the ancient astronaut type of theory, where we're not, maybe not novel on Earth because, well, we came from somewhere else. We came from the stars. And actually, let's get to that quote by Graham Hancock. He said this: "We are consciousness incarnated in stardust." And that's a Graham Hancock quote, and very, very to the point here. And let's get to that. Let's get to that story real quick with Elon and Werner von Braun. What's up? Shout out to who said that in the chat. That was Bernays Sauce, Von Braun book about Beware the Elon. Here you go. Check this out. This is from vintagenews.com. And this is what makes this format great of just doing it and talking to you guys, because I hadn't really considered taking this idea, the progenitor civilization, to Mars. But first call we get, Robert's like, hey, what about Mars? And is this where they came from? And Elon and all the rest of this. And then Bernays Sauce in the chat brings this up. Check this out. This is again from vintagenews.com. Headline is this. In 1952, a German scientist predicted the name Elon would be associated with the colonization of Mars. And let's see. Werner von Braun was a German aerospace engineer responsible for the development of one of Nazi Germany's most advanced weapons, the V-2 rocket, right? We've heard this story, Operation Paperclip, and Werner von Braun, basically the godfather of NASA. And wouldn't you know it, he was also a Nazi. So the V-2 rocket, nicknamed the Vengeance weapon, was the first long-range guided ballistic missile in the world. It entered service in late 1944, and by the end, over 3,000 V-2 missiles had been launched by the Wehrmacht, killing around 9,000 civilians and military personnel. Anyway, on to the rest of this. Von Braun was an avid astronomer who developed a passion for rockets early in his youth. In 1934, he earned a doctorate in aerospace engineering, blah, blah, blah. And here we go. Let's see. Okay, he was blah, blah. More of this. Let's get to the Elon. Here we go. His writings on the construction of a space station inspired the design concepts of Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now here's where it gets crazy. Von Braun's work, this is a fictional work, The Mars Project, published in 1952, was somewhat megalomaniacal, but also strangely prophetic. The book proposed a manned mission to Mars that would result in the planet's colonization and the establishment of an autonomous government there on Mars, right? But then check this out. The mission would include a fleet of 10 massive spacecraft, which would transport 70 astronauts and 9 crew vehicles. Braun made detailed calculations of all the aeronautical and engineering parameters of the mission, but although it was grandiose, how do you say that word, attracted the attention of some wealthy people interested in space exploration, including Walt Disney, it remained purely theoretical due to technological limitations of the 1950s. And this is where it gets super weird. So again, a fictional account written by Werner von Braun, the Nazi rocket scientist that came over to the United States, the godfather of NASA, the V-2 rocket, and of course the entire NASA space program, right? So he said this. The prophetic part of von Braun's work concerns the autonomous government of Mars. Namely, he proposed that instead of presidents, rulers of the colony would be appointed the title of Elon, E-L-O-N. Quote, the Martian government was directed by 10 men, the leader of whom was elected by universal suffrage for 5 years and entitled Elon. 2 houses of parliament enacted the laws to be administered by the Elon and his cabinet. The upper house was called the Council of the Elders and was limited to a membership of 60 persons, each being appointed for life by the Elon as vacancies occurred by death. Now look, 1952, Werner von Braun, the literal godfather of NASA and, of course, Operation Paperclip, the Nazi, brought over here as shortly after World War II, and he wrote a fictional account in 1952 about the settlement of Mars and used the name Elon. You think that's a coincidence? That's the type of stuff that makes me go, are we living in a simulation? Like, what in the world is this? I'll link this in the chat because I hadn't actually thought about talking about this. But again, like I said, that's why we do this in this format, to kind of get things going in some different directions. And here's the actual article if you want to check it out. But yeah, can you believe that? 1952, Werner von Braun wrote a fictional account of how he saw the colonization of Mars. And in the way he saw it, he determined that the government on Mars would be ruled by the title Elon. Ooh, that's super weird. That's super weird. Again, coincidence, right? This is just a coincidence, I'm sure. I mean, this is fine. It's just a coincidence. What are your thoughts, though? Do you think that, again, we're talking about the progenitor civilization. Who were these ancients? And again, were they people? Were they, again, and we've heard about Atlantis and Lemuria. And again, a lot of folks will call this pseudoscience and whatever, what have you. But the truth is, we don't really know the extent of ancient civilizations because we have, a great reset after a great reset after a great reset, which we've seen throughout history over and over again, even in modern times, like meaning the last couple thousand years. We've seen some pretty horrific things happen with famines and plagues and things like this, and the sun just disappearing for like 2 years or something like this that caused just massive worldwide strife and starvation and all the rest of this. So I don't know. Back to the flood, like Robert was saying, that Graham Hancock cited in his book. Again, the book is called, what's this book called? Fingerprints of the Gods. That he actually said that the erosion on the bottom part of the pyramids were from the flood. So again, what do you believe? Like I said, I don't know. I don't have answers here. I'm not the answers guy, but I think it is fascinating to consider all this stuff as being real in some way, or even not. It depends. It's up to you. So what are your thoughts on this? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. What do you think about Mars? What do you think about, Moon Monk? Wait, so the founder of NASA was a Nazi? Yes, indeed. Operation Paperclip, my friend. Yes, indeed. Werner von Braun. So what do you think about this idea? So Robert called in. Thanks for the fantastic call, Robert. Thanks for buying the hat. These hats are sharp, aren't they? Troubledfans.com. You can find hats exactly like this in other styles and colors. But, okay. And so this is where we're at tonight. We're talking about the progenitor civilization. Who were these ancient ones? And again, open-ended, non-linear. We can take this however you want to go. And that's what we're going to do tonight. And Robert started us off with a banger. And we went to Mars. What do you think? Pyramids on Mars? Pyramids on Earth? Do you think there's some sort of correlation? What about the Cydonia area? Things like this, right? Is it a coincidence that in 1952, Werner von Braun, the actual Nazi godfather of NASA, wrote a fictional account of settling on Mars and said that the actual government itself would be ruled by the title of Elon, E-L-O-N. Weird and curiouser. I'd love to hear your thoughts one more time. 702-957-1037. And like I said, it is pretty interesting in terms of where we came from. I think it's an interesting thing where the further back you think, the further back you wonder about just being human, right? Where the very beginnings of this came from. Some scientists or some individuals would tell you that, we were, pond scum at some point, and, we kind of evolved from that. I don't know. I don't know if I believe that entirely. It seems like there's some, let's say, wink, wink, missing links in there from here to there. And so I don't know. It seems... I don't know. It seems like a little bit of a stretch, but I don't know. I clearly think aliens building the pyramids also seems like a little bit of a stretch. So it depends who you ask, of course. So what do you think? What do you think about maybe the progenitor civilization coming from maybe off-world? That's another thing we can add to the discussion tonight. And there we go. What are your thoughts? So as we get down to it, great stuff from Robert to get us started. Operation Paperclip, I hadn't actually considered Mars and the Elon and all the rest of that, but here we are. We may as well add it to the list of things, because why the hell not? Nobody tells us what we can and can't talk about. So that's the deal. That's what's on my mind tonight. Who were these ancient ones? And again, in Stargate SG-1, I'm really enjoying that. And again, Robert, if you're listening, I recommended he start watching that. And he said he would. And I want to warn you, though, if you haven't started yet, the first six or seven episodes are pretty cringe. So get through that, and it gets much, much, much better. So anyway, there we go. So as we wind this down and get to the end of the second segment here, the question is still, was there a progenitor civilization on Earth? Do you think we all came from maybe one source? And one source being, who knows? As Robert suggested, maybe Mars itself. What about off-planet? What about, who knows? What about Graham Hancock and the 10,500-year-old pyramid and the erosion on the side that may be from the Great Flood itself? You tell me. Love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. We'll put you on the show. It's as simple as that. Like I said, I'm not the answers guy. I'm the questions guy. And I'd love to hear what you believe regarding, let's say, the dawn of human civilization. Let's see. I think we're good. Everything's caught up. And, yeah. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More progenitor civilization, the ancients, your phone calls, and Elon Musk on Mars when we return. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. We are talking about alien abduction phenomenon. Aliens.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing that. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are random images as they traverse neurons in the brain.
Alright, so maybe
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It is Wednesday night, which is one of the nights we get together to talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. What are those things, you may wonder? Well, let me sum up because there's too much to really explain. Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. Tonight, we're discussing the idea of a progenitor civilization. Graham Hancock has always said we are a society, a race of people with amnesia, and that our history goes back quite a bit further than we've been led to believe. But it doesn't matter what he says, at least it does in some capacity, because it only matters to me what you believe. What are your thoughts on this? What were the actual ancients of the progenitor civilization? Were they from Mars, as Robert suggested? What about this Elon stuff and Werner von Braun and the rockets 1952, the Saturn rocket, and the actual prediction that maybe the government would be run on Mars when they settled by one named Elon? Interesting. And well, what do you think? As usual, right? So we're streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM and taking your phone calls. And you can reach us at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and we'll put you on the show. It's as simple as that. What's up, S Magician, over on the Fringe Discord? How are you? Let's roll. Let's go to Joe in Florida. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Go right ahead, my friend. How are you tonight?
I'm not too bad, just hanging out for a little bit. Agree with Robert, but I'm going to do like a maybe argument for and an argument against devil's advocate, but totally lots of proof. Pyramids, all of that, repeating that. The other thing that I find is that there's an article, and I wonder if I have the gene, because I'm such a night shift person, even though I work during the day now, and it kills me. But they say that there's 1% of the population, I posted the article in Rockfin, that say you may have a gene that's you have a disposition for a 25-hour sleep cycle, which is what I guess Mars would be, a 25-hour sleep cycle. So to me, that's all, evidence, circumstantial, whatever. But I kind of lean towards that theory that they came over here and populated or controlled us or genetically modified us. Now, my argument against that is if we could find evidence for the pyramids are there, all these things are there, but we don't find any landing craft. I mean, it's conceivable that if they came in big crafts, big spaceships, that they would burn up in the atmosphere. but you would still have to have a landing craft. And up till now, if anything has been found, it hasn't been found on a large enough scale to let it leak out. Kind of like when you do see giant skulls here and there, and everybody says the Smithsonian's got them hidden, but we still see pictures of giants, whatever that frame of reference is. If a giant is maybe 10 feet tall as opposed to 20 feet tall, but people that are abnormally sized, that's leaked out. To my knowledge, I don't think we found anything that has any type of technology as far as a rocket ship. So, making that argument further, if we were living in ancient times and we were staring up at a clear sky without light pollution, we would probably see a lot more rocks falling out of the sky with tails on them. And it wouldn't be a far stretch to say that the way we wrote stories about the stars and the constellations and all of those things, it wouldn't be a far stretch to say that looks like somebody leaving the planet. And then drawing a picture of a meteor that they seen or an asteroid that flew through the atmosphere, drawing those pictures with people inside them. And that would kind of maybe explain why each culture has different depictions of rocket ships. But maybe they never met the people inside of it. It was just every different culture on this planet seeing, meteors or asteroids or whatever it was flying through the sky. So, I don't know if that makes... It's a pro and con. I'd like to believe we could come from Mars. I'd like to have an explanation as to why I don't sleep at night without taking medication. So, all of those things. But, on the other hand, maybe we've just been here and we've had a second start of civilization, and we forgot the first. We forgot our progenitors, which are maybe just us. I don't know. So anyway, that's my argument for now.
Okay, so maybe you say maybe Mars. If you had to make a guess, the progenitor civilization, is it just us and we're overthinking things, or do you think it is a little more exotic than that?
Well, if Mars has pyramids and we have pyramids, it would be suffice it to say that maybe we didn't come from Mars, maybe something from someplace else populated both planets, and the ones that did that are actually still on the moon. So that would get into our Stargate theory. So, kind of, maybe something came from somewhere else. Let's face it, there's moons around Mars that say, I think, that might have a metal surface similar to what they say the moon running hollow. Now you're pushing me because I didn't really think about this. I'm just kind of making it up like anything else. But maybe, juice-wise, maybe it was something else that put both of us, had two aquariums basically going. And one aquarium didn't make it, and this aquarium so far is making it. Kind of like when Captain Kirk put Khan down on SETI Alpha 5, and that planet exploded, and then you have Wrath of Khan. If that makes any type of sense, and maybe it's the Greys. Maybe it's the Greys that came through when you're watching Stargate, the Asgard, all of those things. Whenever they appear to other people, they appear as gods or in different forms, but we get to see the Asgard as those gray aliens on that show. The whatever it was, the gold, they appear as symbiotes. So all of that. So maybe it was something totally different that put us both down, because I'm looking at, well, if there's pyramids on Mars, then you maybe would see skyscrapers or something left other than a pyramid. So how did they get to the development of a rocket ship to get over here? You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and not only that too. Like, I would expect that if that was the case, and there was some sort of civilization that did come here in ships, they wouldn't leave their ships, right? They would probably take off in them. Like you wouldn't just land them and then.
Possible.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot there where it's at least in. Go ahead.
Yes, I know there's another caller. So the only other thing that comes to mind is a movie, I believe it's called The Knowing, with Nicolas Cage. And he sees these predictions and these patterns, and he knows that something's coming. And basically something else comes and takes the children that are like pure of heart to basically restart civilization somewhere else. So, we have arguments in the Bible about that. We have, the flood. There's this, there's that, of civilization being restarted. So maybe something came from somewhere else that was far more advanced, started an experiment on Mars, started an experiment here. This experiment is still going. Not too well, but still going.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And, as you can tell, the world has been in a rough spot the last 10 years or so. Yeah, for sure, man. I love the theories. I love the idea. Thanks for bringing this article here to the thought process. Night owls are from Mars. I love it. I'll read a little bit of this and fill everybody in on your theory. But I do love that. Let's both you and I are night owls. Maybe we're part of that 1% of the gene mutation. I love the idea, my friend.
Have a good night. I'm going to try to take my little bit of pill that doesn't do much. I get 4 hours sleep.
Get it, bro. Get it. Joe in Florida. Appreciate the phone call. Always a pleasure. Have a great night.
And girls and however you identify as. Have a good week, everybody.
Have a great one, man. You too. There you go. So Joe shared this article real quick, and we'll go to Matt. This is from experience.lifetime.life. Night owls are from Mars, it reads. Just over 1% of humans carry a gene mutation that predisposes them to late nights, according to a new study published in the journal Cell. Specifically, the CR1 mutation puts the body on a 24-and-a-half-hour clock, which suits its carriers to life on Mars, where a day lasts 24 hours and 39 minutes. Quote, carriers of the gene have longer internal days than our planet gives them, researcher Alina Patke, who headed the research study at Rockefeller University, told NBC News. They're essentially playing catch-up for their entire lives. There you go. Maybe that's why I can't ever sleep. I'm from Mars. 702-957-1037. We're talking about the progenitor civilization. Who were the ancients? What are your theories? Let's go to Matt in California. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Thanks for being patient, my friend. How are you tonight?
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Doing good. Doing the thing, man. Talking about crazy stuff by night, more troubled minds, just a normal Wednesday night for us. What are your thoughts on this progenitor civilization? Is it as exotic as we're making it, or do you think we're overthinking things?
Well, I called to talk about the pyramids because I love these. I love talking about the pyramids.
Sure, go right ahead.
And I think it's important that there's two questions that are just as important. It's not how they built the pyramids, and also why they built the pyramids. I think those are two equally important questions. And so this Graham guy, he listened to his articles. He was talking about, he broke down like how much each stone weighed, and he talked about how the pyramids were lined up to true north and not magnetic north. So there's a difference. I guess there's a difference between magnetic north and true north. And so the pyramid was lined up to that, and that can go into your hollow earth theory. And then if he did it that way, that means when they built the pyramid, they had to start with a cornerstone. And they had to line that up perfectly, and then each stone had to be built as they built the foundation and they built it up. They built it there was no mistakes. Like, they had to build it perfectly, otherwise it wouldn't be a triangle. And the other one was, he said that if you take the circumference of the pyramid, the outside edge, and you measure it up and you add it up, it equals the circumference of the earth. And I thought that was wild, because how did this primitive civilization know that when you go through the dark ages? Back then they thought the sun went around the earth, they thought the earth was flat, but the Egyptians knew the circumference of the earth, they knew it was round. Like, that's not, I think that would be that's kind of a ancient alien, how they know that.
Oops, I muted myself. Yeah, but you mean it's scale though, right? So it was like a particular unit that matches that scale to the circumference of the earth, right? Is what we're talking?
Yeah, like not only do they know the circumference of the earth, that they scaled it down to tell it. in that we're talking about that guy. I forget his name. Graham Hancock. He was talking about that.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty wild, and he's actually one of the guys that was really into this idea of the pyramids being quite a bit older than we suspect, and again back to the age of I can't remember the name. It's the age 10,500 years ago. It'll come to me in a sec, but yeah, go ahead. You got more on the pyramids. I love that you're into this. That there's a lot to talk about. Again, about something like I said. So what was it? Monstrosity? I don't know. I forgot what I said. It was good then. I lost it now. But go right ahead. What else you got on the pyramids, my man?
Megalithic, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, why were the pyramids built? And there's all kinds of speculations, and with both questions, we don't know. We're speculating. But why were the pyramids built? And so, if you ask a teacher, they're going to tell you, "Oh, silly! The pyramids were built for the mummies, for the pharaohs to be buried." And I think about that, and it don't make sense to me. If it takes, they said it took them 20 years to build a pyramid. And we have to believe in that theory, if they were primitive, slaves, and they were using hammers and rocks and primitive tools to break apart rock that straight, thousands of pound bricks, and then pull them up these slopes with like rollers. And there's a guy with the blowhorn, heave ho, and they're pulling these rocks up.
Don't forget the whip. Where there's a whip, there's a way.
And so, if we believe that theory, I don't care how many people you have, workforce. It's going to take longer than 20 years to build this megalithic structure, and be that precise. It wasn't slaves. These were master craftsmen that built this thing, that took care of it. And so I'm thinking about that. Okay, so let's say if they did it that way, I could believe they did it in maybe 100 years. They'd be able to do it. And so you think if the pharaoh's like 12 when they find out he's a pharaoh, and back then the life expectancy wasn't so long. So let's say 70 years. I would say 70-year-old man is pretty old for an Egyptian back then. Then that means that they would have to start building the pyramid with, either after they found out he was the pharaoh, they would still be building the pyramid years after he had already died. So it doesn't make sense to me that they would build this pyramid just to bury one person in it. And if you ask the archaeologists and stuff, they'll laugh at you. They'll say, "We don't find mummies in pyramids. The mummies are buried like outside in like tombs, like around the pyramid, but not in the pyramid." So what was the pyramid built for? And there's a show I watched where I got this from is the Pyramid Codes. It's a History Channel documentary. And there's this team of scientists they're going out with ground penetrating radar, sonar. And they're like trying to find artifacts under the sand in the desert in Egypt. And they're just kind of going out willy-nilly, just kind of going to random locations trying to find things under the ground. And it's dangerous, it's the desert. It's a no man's land. If you go too far and you don't have enough supplies or you're not prepared, it's dangerous. And so they kind of were like, their crew was kind of halted by that. It's hard to go out and do this stuff. And so what they did was they waited until the pyramids of Giza lined up to Orion's belt, and they took a snapshot of the stars. And then they took a map of the ground, and they imposed that map of the stars over the land, and they scaled it down. And then they started following the stars on the map, going out into the desert to this particular star, and then they would use the ground penetrating radar, and they were finding pyramids. So it wasn't just those 3 stars that lined up to the pyramids of Giza. There was other pyramids built, aligning with other stars and aligning with other planets as well.
Gotcha. So not just the 3, the most famous pyramids of Egypt, the 3 there's more, and you're saying they correlate to a star map, sort of a snapshot of the sky back when these things were actually built. There's a thing called the Orion correlation theory, and it's part of what you're talking about here. And it posits there's a correlation between the location of the 3 largest pyramids and Orion's belt. And so if you're saying there's more, they were with this ground penetrating radar. They were sort of emulating the sky with a star map and building pyramids. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, like I'm with you in the sense that if they built these things to bury the pharaoh, and so science, what the mainstream archaeology will say is that these, the pharaoh's remains and the treasures inside were looted long ago, and that's why there's nothing there now. But it also seems, I don't know, it just seems unlikely, because the whole point of burying something is you want to hide it, right? Like a lot of the tombs of the pharaohs and whatnot were hidden in the Valley of the Kings underground, and kind of made to look not like the most obvious thing in the world, so you couldn't just loot it. So it doesn't make sense that just this one sort of area is exactly the opposite of the way they buried all the rest of the pharaohs. It seems odd. It definitely seems odd. What else you got? We got a couple about 3.5 more minutes for you. Go right ahead, my friend. I'm
just gonna say that I think we gotta keep looking at this and speculating and talking about it. We don't know. We weren't there. And I think that there's so many questions and not enough answers.
Yeah. And like I always say, answers are easy. So as always, take all the stuff we're talking about with a grain of salt and make up your own mind. Mm-hmm. Matt knows this. And we're just kind of kicking it, talking about some of these ideas. Graham Hancock, again, I liked Robert, where he took us, man, like we may as well just start on Mars if we're talking about the progenitor civilization, right? The pyramids on Mars. Why not start there? I mean, it is troubled minds after all. Let's drink some maybe juice. What do you think about that theory about maybe the Elon and the rest of that Mars stuff? Do you think there's any correlation here, or do you think maybe we're taking a turn down the wrong alley at the wrong time?
I don't know much. I know there's pyramids if there is pyramids on Mars, and there's pyramids all around the world, and that kind of trips me out too, because when we talk about the pyramids, usually we're talking about the pyramids of Giza, but then all around the world we find these pyramids, and they're kind of, some of them are kind of hidden or like buried on, the earth took it over. And talking about how they lined it up to the sun, and how certain days of the equinoxes, there's like the temple at Karnak in Egypt. The sun comes up on the solstices or the equinoxes. I forget which one, but they have lines with that. And there's other structures around the world like Stonehenge. It's the same thing on the solstices. Oh, that's what it is. On the solstices for the Stonehenge, the sun rises and sets through this certain stone. And then the other one on the equinoxes, that's in the temple of Karnak, where there's this temple, and the only time the sun shines into the temple is during the sunrise or sunset of the equinoxes. And it kind of reminds me of like in Indiana Jones when he has that little like artifact, and he's shining the light through, and it's only when the sun hits it a certain way.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What kind of secrets are there?
Yeah, the Staff of Ra, Tanis, the city. Yeah. One of my favorites, man. Matt, you were the best. We were running out of time. I appreciate it very much. Matt in California, good friend of mine. Thanks for chipping in, and thanks for giving us some great ideas. You're the best, bro.
Thanks, Mike. Good night.
All right, you too. There you go. If you want to be part of the show, we're still talking about this. What do you think about the progenitor civilization? Who were the ancients? And not only that, well, where did they come from? And is it, again, are we making this more complicated than it seems, a la maybe Graham Hancock style? Or what about full-on Richard Hoagland, like Bernays said in the chat? What are your thoughts? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. We got Jennifer on the line, and we'll be back with her in just a moment. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More progenitor civilization, the ancients, Jennifer, and your calls when we return. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. We're taking your calls as we discuss the Progenitor civilization. Who were the ancients? How far back do you think this goes? Mainstream archaeology says, oh man, maybe 5,000 years, 6,000 years, something like that. Well, Graham Hancock thinks the pyramids themselves were built 10,000 years ago, or even more than that. What are your thoughts? Where did we come from? Where are we going? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and we'll put you on the show. It's as simple as that. Let's go to Jennifer in Missouri. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Thank you for being patient. Go right ahead, my friend.
Hello.
Good evening.
Yeah, this is the pyramids are the big thing, aren't they? I mean, they're all over the planet. It's really strange. We've been trying to figure it out, and I think one of the biggest things that's strange about it too is how we stopped building pyramids. You know, that's weird.
Sorry, taking a sip of my coffee while you're talking. Yeah, it is weird. It is weird.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, that we don't build them anymore.
Yeah, and if it was like the most stable structure, it seems like we would keep building these things, right? But maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah, wild stuff. What are your thoughts on the age of this and maybe this progenitor civilization?
Well, I mean, the progenitor generation, the whole idea about that, I mean, if you look back, I mean, we don't have anything to go off of except for our own science and history, and then all of the mythos. I like to kind of blend them both and try to see if there's some kind of connection. When you think about, I posted something about the Aztecs, and I was thinking about them, you know, and they talk about how they're the 4 cycles, and we're in the 5th cycle, but each cycle had its own sun and everything, and that it was a world itself with its sun every single time. And in those worlds, every time it was destroyed, it destroyed the race that was there. And the first, it was like a race of giants. They could have built the pyramids. There's one. But there was a race of fish. Humans changed themselves into fish because the world was flooded. And that's an interesting notion. I was thinking, you know, the pyramids would be easier to build underwater. That makes sense. Kind of weird, but they could use, I don't know if they somehow, there's a lot of mythos about some type of water being somehow that humans, or there's some kind of humanoid fish beings. You have that. I guess that could make sense in a way. You also have the idea that the nature, like the Earth itself could have, I've been thinking about this more and more. There's a rock wall in Texas, and people were digging it up, these archaeologists found this rock wall in Texas, and it was shaped as if, like, very similar to the pyramids in a way, the way that the stones were stacked. It was limestone. And it was like wedged and stacked in this wonderful, perfect symmetry. But they decided, in the end, the archaeologists believe, that it was a natural formation caused by, like, water and all these things. It got me to thinking about, I don't want to skip to some of the topic, because I was thinking about the Mars thing just then, but, you know, it got me thinking about there was something I read in an article, too, that talked about above the Earth's surface, there's a magnetic portal between the sun and the Earth. A magnetic portal. And when you think about that idea, that perhaps, you know, the fact that these are aligned in certain positions, I wonder if somehow some of the pyramids could have been created. I mean, if you were walking along as an ancient being and you came across a pyramid in any of these places and no one had built them, but the Earth itself had created it, we see all this other perfect symmetry everywhere. All of our math and everything is based off of natural symmetry, every bit of it. Like our mathematics of Fibonacci sequence are based off of nature. You think about that and the fact that, is it possible? Like, is it conceivable even that somehow some of these pyramids were just created out of some kind of magnetic force that is coming from the sun itself or a past sun of one of those worlds? And then back to the Mars thing, I didn't really but I want to finish on that because there's just so much real quick, and I don't want to be on very long. But like with the Mars thing, in the Saturn mythos, there's the idea that Saturn had several moons. We already know about its moons right now, but that the Earth itself was a moon of Saturn, and that Mars was a moon of Saturn, and there were possibly inhabitants of Mars as a moon of Saturn, as the original sun of the Earth too. That the Earth itself was a moon of Saturn, and that we are actually just, that we were originally with the brown dwarf star rather than this yellow dwarf star. I think it's very strange. And if you think about in the Saturn mythos, they talk about the axis mundi. And it's like this, due to the Birkeland current that was occurring between Earth and Saturn, there was this sort of formation happening at the pole that looks just like a pyramid, like a Jacob's ladder going up to, like following that electrical current. And it's electrical theory. It's like Tesla and electrical universe. But it looks like a ladder right up to heaven, kind of like a pyramid. It made me think, too, that if it was pointing at Saturn like the sun itself, or if it somehow our sun has been going through cycles and it was different at some point, or who knows. But in the case of the Aztecs and everything, they were doing the sacrifices and stuff at the top of the pyramid. And then you have all that mythos about the sacrifice of, like in Catholicism, you have the sacrifice of the Christ, and that it's this whole sun thing, the thing with the sun, and the fact that the pyramid itself is representative of the sun, and it's a ladder up to heaven there, and they would do their sacrifices at the top. And it's so strange, and we know that the Egyptians were doing that too. I don't know, because there's so many different ways it could be. You have the idea that the Atlanteans were the Egyptians, and they built them about the same time that Graham Hancock is talking about, that there were all these events that were occurring, that the Earth was going through these tremendous changes, and that the water was much lower at one point, and the weather was very even, and there were hardly any meteorological changes at all because it was Saturn as the sun in that theory, in that theory right there. But if you think about that, the Atlanteans may have built it, and that it's very ancient, I don't know. But yeah, I think there's something to do with the sun and the fact that it's 99% of the mass of the solar system. And it's possible that, I don't know. I don't know. But I wanted to bring those points up. I didn't mention them because.
Yeah, no, great stuff as always. You did mention the sea level there. I was looking into that as part of this discussion tonight as well, because you would expect that if there was some sort of ancient civilization that is, we don't have evidence of directly, it would be under the ocean, right? And we've talked about that in the past. And if you do look at the sea level like you're describing here, we're talking about 20,000 years ago that the sea level was quite a bit lower than what they suggest today. Like even in the course of 200,000 years, at like sort of a bottom mark, like the lowest it's been. So that would literally just say like Atlantis and Lemuria and some of these places that they say may have been are literally just underwater now. I mean, at least, some of the scientific evidence there lines up to what we're describing and what we're talking about. So I am glad you brought that up, because I may have completely skipped over that if you hadn't mentioned it. Brilliant stuff as usual. So if you got to guess, where do we come from? Where did we come from? Just an easy question.
I don't know, but you just reminded me of, something too about the sea level thing. When I was doing some research a while back, I was looking at something, and the pyramid, the shape of the pyramid, and this is, so you reminded me of something, but the shape of the pyramid itself can withstand if you were to have a magnetic pole shift of the Earth, because I'm really into that. I'm a little darker with the doomsday thing, but the idea that the Earth has ended before and that kind of thing. I like the idea that it comes back anyway. But if you think about the switch in the magnetic poles and how everything goes topsy-turvy like that for a while, they might have been aware of that, I think, whoever built them, because the shape of the pyramid itself, if you were to have a deluge or unbelievable hurricane force winds, as the Aztecs describe in one of their destruction stories. At one point, the Earth is destroyed by hurricanes. At another point, it's destroyed by water. And if you think about the pyramids and the shape of them, they can withstand that better than any other shape. So if there was like a mass deluge in the case of Saturn's rings clashing with the Earth, then it would survive that, for example, because of the shape itself and how the brute force of the weight coming at the sides at the bottom, which is the widest, and the way it peaks up, the shape of the pyramid all over the Earth. And then when you think about the same thing with the winds, it's the same thing. It breaks against the mass at the bottom, and it tapers off towards the top. And I thought that was really interesting, that they might have been aware of a cyclical event that occurs. And it's not really doomsday. It's just interesting, because I'm sure we're nowhere near that. I'm just saying. But I think that that's very interesting, and that they may have experienced cataclysmic events in the past, and these pyramids may be examples of that. It is unusual that it was important to the people in the past. I like Kelly's takes all the time. I'd like to hear what he says, that he doesn't think they were made by man at all. But see, extraterrestrials, the Aztecs talk about that too, like with the giants, that they were a race initially, and then the humans became fish to survive the flood. And there's many other cases like that these seemingly extraterrestrials are actually terrestrials, but what we consider extraterrestrial now. And it's possible they could have built them because it was a concern of theirs at the time, but not for us today for some reason. But there's a big weird thing there about why we don't care anymore about building pyramid shapes. We just build squares. But anyway, I'm going to get off the phone though. And I think that that's a very cool topic.
Thank you. Appreciate the phone call.
Never an answer, right?
Yeah. No, it's a. Like I said, ask you the hardest question and ask for an answer. It's not fair. I appreciate the phone call, Jennifer in Missouri. Always a pleasure. Have a great night. Thank you very much. Jennifer here has a YouTube channel. Check it out, please. Scroll down, links in the description. Always talking brilliant stuff. And again, right, in true maybe juice fashion, it's just consider all the things, like somebody said in the chat a ways back a few days ago. It really rung true. Is what we're doing is not really going deep, more wide, and considering that there's a whole lot of possibilities here that could be, completely off the rails, and that's fine. I think if you don't consider completely off the rails, then well, what are you considering? You're not considering anything at all, are you? And I think that's part of why we do this in this format. So thank you. Great call, Jennifer. Great call, everybody tonight, as usual, right? And she's touching on some pole shift. And interestingly, right, as part of this, the Orion correlation theory, the hyperdiffusionism, which is, of course, they call it the pseudo-archaeological hypothesis, suggesting that certain historical technologies or ideas originated with a single people or civilization. And that's the whole idea we're talking about tonight with the progenitor civilization. I can't even say it. Yeah, good stuff. I see you there, Daryl. Are you ready to go? If you're ready to go, we'll put you on the show. So what are your thoughts? This progenitor civilization, again, we started out with a whopper tonight because Robert went straight to Mars, because why not? Hey, we're talking about pyramids on Mars because, again, if you want to check that out, I've got an actual, let's see, the Cydonia Pyramid, the D&M Pyramid landform, and it's right there. Link's going to be in the description below, and I'll link it in the chat if you guys haven't seen this. But there is this pyramid landform actually on Mars itself. So, hey, if we're going to start somewhere, we may as well just start the hell on Mars, right? But what are your thoughts? Where did we come from? Like I said, not an easy question. It's not really a fair question to ask, but we are just taking theories and not pinning anybody down to what their ideas are. So, love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. Let's go to Daryl in New York. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Are you there? Test 1, 2.
Hear me?
I can hear you. You're breaking up. Try again. Let's see.
I'm just, I have nothing really. My tabs. Can you?
Yeah, it's not the audio coming through. It's just that your voice breaks up. So you start talking, and then you get 3 words out, and then it cuts you off, and a couple more words, and it cuts you off. So it's super. Okay, all right, cool. I'll catch you on the phone line in just a bit. Yeah, I'll try and help you figure that out after the show tonight, because it's been a thing now. I think it's a setting in Discord, so I'll help you fix that. But yeah, 702-957-1037. There's a lot of theories here. There's a lot of good stuff. I mean, where do we go from here? I don't know. Again, as always, this is the question show, not the answer show. But where did we begin? What is the progenitor civilization, and who were the ancient ones? Who were the ancients? like as many have suggested, it could be the Egyptians. It could be. I got a whole list of stuff here. I've done it. Digging into some of these ancient civilizations of the past and pyramids the world over and all kinds of stuff. And it makes you wonder, right? Makes you wonder. What's going on? We got a Leo Elizondo in the chat. Are you Lou's cousin? You must be Lou's cousin. Welcome, buddy. What's going on? All right, so that's what we're talking about tonight. I don't know, no answers for me, but as far as you can go back as far as you want, basically. And I think that you could talk about sea level rise, you could talk about Atlantis, you could talk about Lemuria, or you could even talk about Mars in this context of where we came from. And I think that's the amazing part of all this. So there you go. That's what's going on. I'd love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Let's go back to Daryl in New York. Go right ahead, Daryl. Sorry about that. I'll help you get your Discord fixed after the show, okay? Go right ahead. What's on your mind, my friend?
Okay, no problem. I love this subject, by the way. This is one of my favorite topics. I was in Chichen Itza in Mexico, and I was amazed that, there's this thing that happens on the equinox that it looks like a snake is coming down, the pyramid. And how did they know how to do that? I think they definitely used something with the equinox, in the days, the equinox for the solstice, and they have so many sites. The Stonehenge has it, Angkor Wat, even Manhattan Henge. We have a Manhattan Henge that also works on the solstice, So I think, knowing that's just so clever. How did they know to do that? That would make something appear twice a year, And also, I want to say, I climbed up one step of that pyramid, and it was so high. I did not climb up anymore. I got off of that pyramid. They had to be giants. They had to be gigantic. There's no way that was built by small people or people our size. And I just don't know where those large people came from. But I believe they were giants. I totally believe in giants. And I don't know if there are, progenitors or what, but I think they build all of those huge sites. There's something about them. And if they were that tall and that big, they must have had huge brains. They must have been so smart. I don't know how we could have been smarter than them, that we, overcame whatever they were doing to us. I'm sure we weren't, we were oppressed by giants, maybe. Just assuming,
Yeah, I love that you brought up that the snake in Chichen Itza on that so it's a step pyramid, and it's the solstice, right? When this happens, the equinox. Which one is it? I can't remember.
Right. I think it's both. I think it happens just on the shortest day and the longest day. I mean, is it the shortest and the longest day? I'm not sure. But anyway, it's that day, twice a year something happens where it has that illusion. When the sun is rising or setting, it looks like a snake is coming down the pyramid. How did they know how to build that, to make that illusion? And there's one, I think it's in, I forget, Karnak or somewhere, where there's a dagger that looks like it's the sun makes a knife or something, twice a year. How'd they know that? That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I think they must have used.
Just real quick, I've seen that on TV, the actual the representation of during that particular day of the year. I can't remember exactly which one. Like I said, it may be both, but the shadow that's cast by the sun in a particular spot at a particular time actually makes it look like there is a sort of a shadow of a snake weaving down the pyramid itself. It's pretty insane when you see it. It's like, wow, that doesn't seem to be an accident at all. And you're talking about sort of ancient structures and ancient civilizations and how smart they were to build these things. Not only that, you'd have to plan the hell out of that. That doesn't happen by accident, right? I think it's pretty nuts. What's it? Bernays Saw says it's spring and fall when that happens. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty weird to me that's a thing, and it's a great point here is that there's a lot more engineering that went into this stuff, not just with the structure itself. Clearly, that was very difficult, but then also in the alignment of the stars and all the rest of this stuff, and the equinoxes, the solstices. It's just it's pretty incredible for sure, 100%. So if there is, so are you suggesting that if you got to guess, the progenitor civilization is giants? Is that what you're saying here?
I don't know. I'm kind of fascinated with giants. I'm obsessed with them, actually. I really believe that they existed and they were on this planet first, I think they were here first. I think there were large creatures on this planet first, but they had more oxygen back then. That's why, biblically speaking, people lived longer back then. I don't know, things have changed on this planet that, for some reason, we don't live as long as the biblical people live. I mean, how, did people really live for 900 years? Can you imagine? Are you married to somebody for 900 years? I mean, what's the divorce rate like, I don't know.
Always the hot take from Daryl. Yeah, I mean, right? So is it the 700-year itch? I mean, I don't know.
And how long do you reproduce? Do you have children when you're 500? I'm waiting till I'm 600. I don't want to have any kids till I'm like, I want to enjoy my life or whatever,
Right.
I'm more career oriented, I wanted to get my career going before I had any more children. I've already had 1,000. I mean, how many kids did you have,
Right.
How long did you reproduce?
Yeah.
What?
Always bringing the laughs, Daryl. I appreciate it very much. But it, like I said, I'm more career minded. I'm gonna take 700 years and start a religion. Then I'll settle down and have 10 million kids or something like this.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know.
Exactly.
We're just making fun of ourselves at this point. But yeah, I think it's just an interesting concept in that like we have history, we have prehistory, and then we have whatever came before that. And in those cases, right, we just don't know a ton. We know some things scientifically, anthropologically, archaeologically, but as I'm always saying, we're really working with 0.1% of the data because there's just so much that's going to be underwater, so much that's going to be underground that we haven't even sniffed at yet. So it's a pretty wild thought. We got like a minute left before we got to get off the radio. So what's your final thought here on the progenitor civilization? And you can stay after, of course, just to let you know time wise.
Okay, thanks. I've been watching stuff on YouTube. There's such proof that we've been tilling this earth and mining the earth for years and years and years. I mean, things like the Grand Canyon, there's proof that we've really tried to get as much minerals and gold and copper and silver and whatever we can, get out of the earth for years and years and years. There's evidence of this. Because once we go through something like that, it leaves this kind of a destroyed earth feeling to it. It doesn't. It's not pristine anymore. It's not pure. We've damaged the ground. We've damaged the earth, and they were showing all over the earth the evidence of our mining the earth, and I think we've been pretty smart for a lot longer than we think. I don't think we were ever really hunters and gatherers. I think we've had our act together a long, long time. I mean, I was in Santorini during, it was 20 years ago, and they had just uncovered only 5% of their ruins. And they had brothels, they had banks, they had plumbing, and this is at least 4,000 years ago, So, I mean, I'm sure we've been around at least 20,000 to a million.
Hold that thought. I'm going to mute you, come back and get you in a sec. That's Daryl in New York. She's got a YouTube channel. Check it out. She sings in English and French. Links in the description below. As we finish, it's not up to me, it's up to you. What do you believe about this stuff? As we finish, if you're listening to us on the Fringe FM, stay tuned for Joe Roop Lighting the Void. If you're listening to us on any other platform, including the podcast feed, stay tuned for a third hour of Troubled Minds, and be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night. Okay, sorry about that, Daryl. I put you on hold, but you hung up. So I was going to just come right back to you, but you're welcome to call back. Here's the thing. I'll send you a message on Discord to see if we can get that fixed up. I think what's happening is it's your noise gate. Like you somehow turned on the Discord noise gate, and it's cutting out your actual voice there. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to keep on trucking. We got a third hour of Troubled Minds coming up, and we've got this. We've got the Progenitor civilization. Who were the ancients? And again, non-linear, open-ended. Where are we going to take this? How's this going to go? You tell me. 702-957-1037. We've already gone to Mars. We've gone to Lemuria, Atlantis. We've gone to Chichen Itza and the snake coming down the pyramid. We've gone all over the globe and back. And, well, there we go. And to Mars itself. So what are your thoughts? The Progenitor civilization. Who were these ancients? We even went to Stargate. And who built the Stargates in SG-1? Because why not? They're called the ancients. So what are your thoughts? We're still talking about this, and it's not an easy question. It's just kind of throwing out some theories and talking and considering and hanging out with great people, non-judgmental people. That's what this is about. All right, so hang tight. We're going to be right back. Looks like Daryl's calling back. We'll get back with her in a sec, and looking to hear from you. 702-957-1037, troubledminds.org. Click the Discord link, and 2-minute break. More Troubled Minds on the way. Don't go anywhere. 2-minute break. Be right back. All right, welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter. And we're taking your phone calls tonight as we discuss this idea. Who are the ancients? The Progenitor civilization. Is there a basis here? How far back does it go? And is it even off-planet? Taking all ideas here. I like where Robert started us off tonight, going straight to Mars. He didn't beat around the bush. He went straight to Mars and said, well, there's pyramids there, Mike. And again, if you pull up the NASA, JPL NASA images, I've got a link there I dropped in the chat a couple times. There appears to be a pyramid in Cydonia on Mars. So you tell me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Who were the ancients and this Progenitor civilization? Let's go back to Daryl in New York. Thanks for being patient, and thanks for calling back. Go right ahead. What are your other thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, hi. Well, I think we realized there were pyramids all over the world. You know, there's some underwater. There's some, that have, the earth is overgrown on it and that are covering them up. But I think we were a pyramid society, and for some reason, we abandoned those areas to live in for some reason. Like, how did something? They even said there's pyramids in Antarctica, there's Bosnia, there's China. There's even in the Amazon. There's more pyramids. There's pyramids probably in the U.S. And I know there's one off the coast of off the East Coast underwater. I was trying to find it on Google Earth, but I found roads. I found roads and roads all over, like the coastlines. Going across pretty much everywhere, over to Mexico, over the Pacific coast. There's roads. They couldn't be anything else because they're straight lines. So we definitely have buried a lot of stuff. There was probably a lot more land and a lot less water at one point, So I don't know what made the earth, how did it change so much with the water? Did that eliminate a lot of people? Did that eliminate a lot of giants? Were the giants dependent on land? Maybe we were all mermaids. I wonder, maybe the myth of mermaids, maybe we've been genetically altered to become, land locked, They decided to make us more like the giants, and get rid of our tails. I don't know, our fins. I mean, there's still people that have webbed, toes and hands. Is that a genetic defect, or it's just part of our genealogy? Who knows,
Yeah, that's why we do this. I was reading some things, and they were describing building the pyramids with floaters, with some sort of water system where they attached these these contraptions where they put floaters on these rocks and floated them to the top and then moved them into position, and they were able to drain the water somehow. That sounds like a nightmare. I mean, I don't know. Like to actually make that happen. That sounds
possible.
pretty. Yeah, of course. I mean,
But some of those like megalithic structures are so big, they had to be built by giant people, for giant people. They weren't built for our size people, you know. Those entrances in Jordan, you know. I mean, it's just crazy how tall they are. Like, who would build something that big? You know, why would we build anything that size? It's not our size. We couldn't open a door that big, or, you know, doesn't make sense. They had to be giants. I think it would have been very simple for them to build a pyramid, you know, probably just using, you know, their blocks is like a tinker toy, you know. Oh, but the water idea also, everything's lighter when you have water around you. You could do a lot with water. So that's totally a possibility. But still, why would we build something that I couldn't even make? I got up one step on that pyramid. It was so high. I was so scared to go up any higher. I'm like, oh, no. I got to get down. Even just one step. That wasn't made for people our size. No way, you know? Those pyramids, they're just supersized. I don't know. Everything was supersized back then. So I think there was something much larger than we are. I don't know. That's my opinion. I just really believe that there were gigantic people.
Okay, right.
Now, did they come from Mars? Who knows? If there's pyramids on Mars and there's pyramids here, I think there were giants everywhere. But where are their spaceships? That's a good question.
Yeah, right. If they brought spaceships, I would think they flew away in them. That's what I would think. So when, not to say that aliens are here, and like I'm not trying to be emphatic about any of this, but it makes sense to me that if you brought a spaceship, you wouldn't leave it here to rot in the dust. You take it with you. I mean,
no.
That's how you got here, right?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Unless they were so advanced that they transported themselves, you know, like in Star Trek, you know. You know what I'm saying? Like they had some other technology that they could just like zoom their molecular structure here in a second. You know, just saying, could be.
Yeah. Hey, we're drinking
no
the maybe juice. Maybe juice is the name of the show. You're allowed to say maybe. It's okay. It's totally good. Totally good. I appreciate it, Daryl. Great stuff as always. We got Kelly behind you. What else you got for us tonight?
I'm good. I want to hear Kelly.
Okay.
And everybody was great calls tonight. Great stuff. Great topic.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. You as well. Again, like I said, Daryl here has a YouTube channel. Check it out. She sings in English and French. And you can actually catch her singing karaoke on Discord from time to time. TroubledMinds.org. Click the Discord link, and she's got her own karaoke channel down there. So come say hi. Come meet Daryl. She's as amazing as she sounds. Always a pleasure, Daryl. Go ahead and jump into the Discord down there and just unmute, and you can hear, not unmute, but squelch yourself, and then we'll catch you there. And I'll help you get that fixed. I'm pretty sure it's your noise gate. Have a great night, Daryl. Talk to you soon.
You too, Mike. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot. There you go. Looking to hear your thoughts on this. The progenitor civilization, who were the ancient ones? Again, does it, I like where Robert started us off. We smashed the maybe juice and went straight to Mars on this one because why the hell not, right? Who tells us what to think and what to say? And what are your thoughts? Where do we begin with this? Where does it end? How far back does it go? And is it even off planet? Love to hear you. And one more time, 702-957-1037. Let's go to Kelly. Kelly in Colorado. I'm sure you got some stuff for us, man. You jumped off a couple hours ago and we're like, I'll be back. I'm going to come back with some information. What's going on? Kelly, how are you, bro?
Good. How you doing, man? This is, I love this subject. As you know, this is one of my, ones that I've actually trying to pinpoint some theories on, the whole connection of a one worldwide civilization, or which would include like religions, building techniques, and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I actually was thinking about you when I was putting this one together. I was thinking, I'll bet you. Kelly's going to be into this. So what do you got tonight? What do you got for us?
Okay, so let me start off here. I got a couple things I've been putting to this board. There's one more thing.
You're cutting out just a little bit. Maybe get as close as possible.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's better.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm posting some stuff already on Discord for you to pull up while I'm talking. But we're going to just kind of go through some theories and then what like the one civilization, one worldwide civilization, you know what I mean, or people were connected in some kind of way worldwide. Obviously, because we're going to talk about like for instance, like structures, right? Building structures, gods, religions, paintings and drawings, pyramids, knobs that you see on the side of these megalithic structures, right? They call them either knobs. There's one that they found in Egypt, and the Great Pyramid is actually, they call it, I think it's a god rise or something like that. I can't remember. I was trying to find it, but I mean, like I have a ton of stuff, man. But like you were saying that you try to always tell people, but a lot of my stuff's in storage right now, so I'm kind of just winging it right now. But let me start off first, okay? So the pyramids itself, okay? So if people don't know, we always, you guys were talking about earlier, we were talking about the alignments, right? And how the type of building structure there is, that the type. Okay, so and the type of stones where they had to quarry the stuff, and then were miles. I'm talking hundreds of miles down, and to bring it down into Egypt, where they built this stuff. So, okay, so let's start from there. If this is first thing first, everybody knows. I don't know if everybody knows, but the Great Pyramid of Egypt, it's 8-sided. Actually, all three of them are 8-sided, and I have pictures. I'll post a little bit later, and you can actually look at them themselves. The harder one to see is the middle one, the middle size one. But if you take an aerial view, I got aerial views I'll post on here too here in a minute. But the aerial view is really good, and you can see from the Great Pyramid to the smallest pyramid out of the three. There you can really see that they're 8-sided. Now, if they're building these things, right? Most people are just going to build something, right? But why would they build something with megalithic blocks? Most humans would build stuff that we can carry, right? Or, something that we can drag, maybe like, for instance, right? So I'm not going to say that humans can't do that. What I'm going to say, because I follow this other person, and he kind of, he introduced a couple things that was, it's an island down in the, down by like Samoa and stuff like that, down in those Pacific Islands, way across over there, right? And there's a technique that they were building. Have you guys ever heard of called dolmens, right? Dolmens are these big megalithic structures. What they are look like big slabs, two walls, and then four walls. Some of them have 4 walls, some have just 2 walls, and then you have like a big slab on top, right? So I don't think I have one in there yet, but just check it out. They're called dolmens, D-O-L-M-A-N, or M-E-N, right? Dolmens. Now, underneath some of these dolmens worldwide, okay, now these are worldwide. These are not structures that you just find here and there. These are actually worldwide. Here in the States, all over Japan, Russia, Siberia, all through like the Asian countries, right? There's too many of those to name right now. I'd have to pull all those up. But dolmens, they found like giants, right? So, she was talking about giants earlier, right? I believe that also. And I actually got pictures on that where it shows in the Egyptian pantheon, right? In some of the paintings, they show that these giant beings, some are carrying like elephants, looks like they're like killed the elephants, and they, strapped it over the top of 2 things, and they're carrying them around. You see them picking up those big blocks. You also have them, standing up those megaliths that are, come to a point, what are they called again? Anyway, obelisks, right? So they're standing up obelisks. Yeah, so they're standing up obelisks, all these things, and some of the pictures I sent in Discord. But I believe that. I mean, not only that, you have stories of giants worldwide. I mean, these type of things that mainstream science wants to exclude or not add or even call it some kind of bullshit science, right? No, this history of the planet is way older than, I believe, is way older than what mainstream science or archaeology wants to, try to throw in our faces. I just think it's nonsense, right? So first off, like, there's another things like, okay, I'm gonna like from Sumeria all the way into like South America. Okay, so like some incidents just for they have found like an ankh-shaped building. The ankhs that are shaped like it's like a cross with Egypt. Most their gods are holding it, right? Well, they have a shape of that they Mexico. It's a building shaped just like that, right? And also you have it was Father Crespi. He was down in South America, right? And a lot of people were bringing him these weird trinkets, gold pieces of gold, gold crowns. I mean, there shows a picture of him. He's wearing someone tried to put this crown on him, and it's like, I don't know, I would say about 10 times the size of his head, and it was made of gold, right? And they also have statues where it looks like a Sumerian god, the one that looks like an eagle head, and he's holding a pine cone. That was found in some of that in Father Crispy stuff. You also find in Sumerian writings that were found in a bowl that was found in Bolivia, which is called the Puente Magna bowl. Those are actually, you'll find those as well. And you also find, let's see, building techniques. So polygonal constructions. Polygonal constructions look like just like a big jigsaw puzzle kind of put together. Megalithic things, you'll find them in like Tiwanaku, all the way down in Bolivia. I mean, all over to Peru. And you'll find that over in Aswan, Egypt as well. And another connection you'll find is where they did where they dug up some of there's only one place they know over there in the Middle East where they find the rose granite, right? And which is interesting. It's in southern Egypt, right? In Ori. But what's interesting, the connection to that is with also in Baalbek, Lebanon, right? Baalbek is we talked about that before, and in the ancient writings or in the ancient word for Baalbek is the landing place, and that's in obviously in Lebanon, right? So Lebanon, and then you have the Parthenon, or it's like beyond the Egyptian. They call it a Greek. But even those Greek buildings, I don't believe the Greeks or the Romans built any of that stuff. And the reason why I say that is because I have done a lot of research with it. They've where it looks like I have many pictures on that too. But talking right now, I'll actually kind of post.
Yeah.
But,
also, FYI, real quick. So Kelly's put a whole bunch of images. I put some of these up on the screen here. But if you haven't joined the Discord, this is exactly why you should, because people hop in there all the time. And Kelly in particular has a lot of really pretty compelling images that he's again not only been cataloging for a long time. He's been printing images off the internet you can't find anymore. We did a show together maybe a couple years back now, maybe a year and a half, where we were talking about exactly this stuff, sort of that forbidden archaeology and things that sort of disappear, these photographs, and whether you think they're real or not is part of the question. And if they've disappeared from the internet, he's literally got a huge book he's printed out, and he's got copies of these things. So he's doing digital versions right now, and like you said, his stuff is in storage and whatnot. This is why you do it. Come join it. Troubledminds.org. Click the Discord link. It's right on top. You can't miss it. And just come hang out and meet some amazing people. Go right ahead, Kelly. I'll keep putting these images up. But so you're saying that a lot of this megalithic stuff, most of it, even all of it, is it's just not made by human hands, and it's and there's some reasons for that. Go right ahead, sir.
Not only that they say that it's not built by human hands. Human hands might have helped, but like the big constructions, like these big megalithic, where this shit is pinpoint accurate, where the cut lines are 45-degree angles. The only way you're going to do that is with milling. That what we would do with milling, right? You're going to mill that shit. You're going to have to use big-ass machinery to even lift this stuff, to move it around. But real quick for that too, like moving stuff around, there was I was gonna say there was that one. I kind of forgot about that. I went off track, but there was a group of people right down in the Samoan areas and these islands. I can't remember the island right now, but they were when their king would die, they would drag. Excuse me. They would drag these. They would find this. There was a quarry, right, and they would find stones, but the stones were already kind of like made into almost like a square shape. They didn't really knock it into that shape. They just kind of peeled it away. They showed the little quarry that they had, and they would have people from like 14 different villages, right? And they were talking hundreds of men, 200-300 men, and they would drag this thing, and all their villages would be on the top of a hill and in a jungle, mind you. I've seen these pictures myself. I try to find them again, but again, I'd have to post them, later on, after we're done here. But yeah, they would drag these stones all the way to the top, right? And they would build dolmens, right? These where they would place, and it was actually a marker for their kings and queens, where it was like a headstone, but they were dolmens. They were just big ass, and they wouldn't be real tall. They would probably be, they would bury the stone, right? This is how they would do it. They would put two up, standing up, and then they would bury it with dirt, and then they would come across like a mound, and then they would drag that top one and put it on top, and then they would unbury take the dirt out from it, and then that's where the stone was at. But saying that yes, they could do that. Moving stone would be one thing, but cutting it like that polygonic style where you can't even stick, a hair in between it. Some of that stuff we can't even do now. So I don't understand where like mainstream science or archaeology wants to try to deflam that and try to say that they don't even know. Obviously, everybody doesn't know, and the reason why I say that because you hear these archaeologists from history, right? And they come in and they ask, how the hell did you guys build this? Right? They even tell you themselves, we didn't build it. It was here already, and we just started living here. And by that, when I talk about that type of stuff like that, I go back to Sumerian, and in the Sumerian writings, they talk about that exact same thing, that they built these megalithic buildings, right, across the planet because when they came here, that's what they were doing. They were obviously living here. They had a mine, so they were here for many years. So when they were doing that, they also had built what they call abodes, right? When the planet came around, or like when their parents came and visit, they would build these abodes. They wanted it all special looking, different looking, something exotic. And then when they left, humans, they found these things and they just overtook them. They called them churches or places where they, because their gods were, they were there at one time and they wanted them back. So that's the whole reason for that. They kind of wanted all that stuff. Now, and yes, they were also on Mars. So like if what talked about, not only in that whole area, right, where it's where the face and the pyramids, right? You also find there's another thing that they found on Mars. It's the shape of it. It's called and it's the same shape. It's a key shape hole. It looks like a key shape hole that you seen on the old doors, right? Where you stick a skeleton key in. Well, it's called a kofun, right? Kofun, and it's the exact same shape as what they have on Mars. And the one on Mars, you can tell that it was actually, throughout time, where it'd be like dust, kind of like within Egypt, where sand and stuff would just bury it, right? But you can see the step part around that whole thing. I'll post that as well. But yeah, man, if you're looking at all this type of stuff, for me, it's just, again, there's another thing too, that if it wasn't these master builders, because everybody talks about master builders and all through history, through religions and stuff like that, they talk about these master builders that came and, that they were teachers and stuff like that. But when you look at some of that stuff, man, how else is it going to be built? If we can say that, they did some kind of, floating device or something, where they can float these rocks and move them around that way. obviously it can be done with sounds. We talked about that one too with the Tibetans. Where they would do a levitation of these rocks up on top. But who taught them? So that's why I always go back. And I try not to talk about it in this one, but obviously, for me, these ancient cities and these ancient people, these ancient civilizations, one worldwide thing where it was all connected at once because the evidence is there. Another one would be the keyways. You ever heard of those? Those are like these things that they cut in blocks. Looks like an eye, and they melted like metal inside, and they put them inside these things so they kind of stay together. So like if earthquake or anything was moved because the earth is alive, and obviously you have earthquakes, volcanoes, or whatnot. Even deluge or whatever. Some kind of force from outside the planet coming in that would destruction. But these things are found also worldwide. Now it's either one or two things for me. It's either the same builders or it's the same builders who taught people how to build the same way. There's no other way to go around it. I mean, that's another thing too I was going to talk about too, with like Jennifer was talking about. Yeah, when the pyramid shape, like these people that build these pyramid shapes or any kind of a pyramid shape, and they do testing on these things. That there was one in Russia that there were some guy built a pyramid, but the energy that those things can produce just from the planet itself, it's amazing, right? It just funnels through the bottom of the pyramid and the shape of that thing. I'm surprised we just don't build it anymore like that. And just like you guys have one over there in Vegas now, I stayed at that hotel as well. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of wonder, and like how, I mean, we're talking, that thing is so precise. It is barely off, like 0.01365 or something, almost pi. That thing is barely off by that much. So if humans built that, I would love to see the blueprint, really.
Yeah, and so not only that, I was reading some of this stuff too regarding the pyramids and the golden ratio and some of this stuff, and they said that it's very close to that as well, which supposedly wasn't discovered until, I don't know, like the 5th century or something like this, right? Don't take my word for that. It was something to that effect, right? Where they were talking about like some of these actual sacred geometry that kind of came about afterward. Maybe people wrote about and maybe knew way back. The pyramids, like Matt was saying too, the circumference of the Earth at scale, mathematically, it's pretty wide. It's a lot of this stuff that it just makes you scratch your head. Is it a coincidence? What do you think about the alignment and the Orion's belt and the rest of that stuff? Do you think it is some correlation, or do you think it's just mimicking the sky like a star map, like Matt was saying? What's your take on that?
No, from what I gathered on some of the that I was reading. Okay, so you take archaeology, and then you take the ancient Sumerian, and then you take what everybody else has passed throughout history about some of that. Now, again, if kind of like with Graham Hancock, I do have that book too as well. That's in storage. But the Fingerprints of the Gods, I do have that book. That's an amazing book. It's like, man, that thing he probably put at least 10 years of work inside that thing, man. That thing is amazing. But man, like, if you go back, just like what he did, okay? So now, if you're looking at time as in 2022, and you look at it saying, well, no, it's off. Well, you would have to go back to 3,000 years ago when the planet and everything else, because everything is, slightly moved, right? Or even you're talking about, someone was talking earlier about a pole shift, where it's going to actually move the kind of, I would say, jerk the planet, or what could have been causing these pole shifts would be, I don't know, let's say a Planet X coming in through our solar system, pulling on these planets, kind of like I feel like it is happening nowadays. Everything's coming like all these ancient volcanoes, and we're at a place where fault line supposedly has been dormant for hundreds of years. You have oceans receding over Florida and Cuba and stuff. I'm talking the whole ocean just fucking disappeared, for miles. There was actually, where boats were sitting on the ground, and there was a big ass wall sitting there. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah. Real quick,
Yeah, man.
You're breaking up for just a sec. Let me give you. I think it's your internet. I'm gonna read just a little bit here. This is from Fingerprints of the Gods, the Wikipedia. Graham Hancock suggests that 10,450 BC, a major pole shift took place. Before then, Antarctica lay further from the South Pole than today, and after then, it shifted to its present location. The pole shift hypothesis hinges on Charles Hapgood's theory of Earth crustal displacement. Hapgood had a fascination with the story of Atlantis and suggested that crustal displacement may have caused its destruction. His theories have few supporters in the geological community compared to the more widely accepted model of plate tectonics, but they were adopted by Rose and Rand. Flem Athas, When the Sky Fell. I don't know how to say those guys' names. Sorry about that. When the Sky Fell in Search of Atlantis, and that was 1995, and a reprint 2009, in which they expand the evidence for Charles Hapgood's theory of Earth crust displacement and propose Antarctica as the site of Atlantis. And this is from a Graham Hancock book called Fingerprints of the Gods. A lot of this stuff is in there as well. So just as I was doing the digging through trying to find some stuff tonight, of course I came across that book and was like, oh, okay, this seems to be right in line with what we're talking about. But go ahead, let's see if we got your internet fixed up. What's your take on that and all the rest? Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, man, that's I actually kind of agree. Do you hear me? Am I a little bit better?
Yep, you're good. Good now. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, so after that too, with Graham Hancock, I kind of look at that, and it's the same thing where okay, so even science, they even say how the Earth was made, right? Something slammed into the Earth, peeled off, made the moon, kind of made round after thousands of years, millions of years, rounded out, But you look at that, and the reason why their scientists are actually looking at that is because I kind of briefly talked about it on a show one night, but it's because the planet, because of that collision with another planet or whatnot that may have happened, is that now the crucial plates of the planet was all together at one time, right? It was a solid piece. That's why you don't really see that much. That's why they were looking at other planets that they're like earthquakes and stuff like that. It's because this crucial plate is now damaged, right? So that's why everything pulls apart. They kind of dig underneath each other. It's not a solid mass what it used to be like other planets. That's why we have what we have on this planet. It's so volatile, right? So you got earthquakes again. You have massive volcanoes, and because of these things, but they don't even really know what causes volcanoes in the first place. But that's a whole different story. But the thing with most of this, right, and like I say, science only makes the Sumerian tablets more correct. Every time they speak, every time they want to say that what happened with for example, the hammered bracelet, which is the asteroid belt, right? How did that happen? Well, that was actually part of what Tiamat was. If you go by, that Sumerian theory that, and that's what's another interesting thing to me. If that's the case, okay, and we're talking that, maybe the civilizations have been around. Now, if the Anunnaki been around for hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions, on their own planet, and they came here and they ruled, and they actually have the Sumerian king list where you had 3-4 rulers that ruled 210,000 years together. Their lifespans were enormous, right? Now, what about the other planet Tiamat, which is now Earth? What do you think if something was to hit that planet, that everything was destroyed? Maybe some of the stuff that we're finding on this planet is part of that planet that was, the ancient history back then. So we don't even know. Again, it seems to me that this was a worldwide connection, and the only way then the story that follows that through is, for me, is the ancient Sumerian tales, because there's nothing that compares to that. It's just written in stone. I mean, these things, these people like to call these. I don't know, man. I don't know what's up with these archaeologists, but they want to call it a poem, right? Like the Epic of Gilgamesh that was from Sumeria, and even the whole story of him was they claim to be his fault. It's just a poem, but yet his name is on the Sumerian king list as one of the rulers on the planet, and yet they dug up the city that he ruled, Uruk. That's in Egypt. They found the goddamn thing. So it's not like, so what's real and what's not. But for me, again, I follow the ancient astronaut theory because that makes more sense. It doesn't. I mean, not everything they say. Believe me. I mean, I have every video that they made, but it's not. I agree with any like 90 or 100% of that shit. I mean, like there's a vast amount. I would say almost 90% of what they're talking about is pretty spot on because again. So if it isn't, then what does mainstream science come up? They just come up with some lame stuff like they always do. Like the theories like how the even human species came about. Where are we from actually? Was we actually jump started from a primate here?
Pond scum, Kelly. Pond scum. You were pond scum once. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's just crazy,
Yeah. I mean, again, that's why we talk about it, obviously, and this is right down your alley. So do you think that in terms of the first civilization, where we came from, do you think it was clearly? You don't think that scientific evolution bit? Not saying you don't believe in evolution at all. Just saying, do you think there was a different beginning here? And again, you can take this Anunnaki or not. It's up to you, of course. But it seems to me that things are certainly much older than we suspect in many ways. And what that means, I don't know. I don't know where to take it other than to say, well, where do we come from? And again, this is not an easy question because, like I told Jennifer, just a hard question. Go get this one. What was the progenitor civilization, and was it human? I think that's the question, right? Because Robert called in first off talking about off-world, talking about Mars and pyramids on Mars, which I really didn't even expect for us to get there tonight, to be perfectly honest. But he just came out swinging and went straight to Mars. It's like, okay, well, so what do you think regarding that? Like you said, if we had this Tiamat situation with which smacked into the Earth way back and became the Earth because of the cataclysm that happened. And again, who knows how long ago that was? Who knows what kind of artifacts were transferred? If Tiamat was livable? I mean, there's a lot here, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Because I mean, that's where it's like again, that's why I like the whole word we say we begin to drink some maybe juice, because that's more or less what we're doing. And again, those are just theories. Everybody has them. But the thing about it is that this history it's not just written down. That shit is in stone. You know what I mean? It's not. This is something that's incredible. So it's kind of hard. It's like, for me, it's like, man, that is some crazy shit to really think about. Like, because also too, in those pictures that I sent, I mean, I don't know if you showed them all, but you also have like maybe these people weren't human looking, right? Maybe that they were, that they kind of made themselves look human by some kind of weird technology. Because, like in the Sumerian statues, these guys look like they're wearing wristwatches all the time. But when they're wearing wristwatches, they look human. But you look into other Sumerian like statues and stuff, you have something that looks reptilian. Or even like South America, you have something that looks like like reptilian part weird animal. Like there, and each one of these things, and those pictures I did show, that I did post, is these creatures are flying objects. They are literally flying airplanes. There's some in Mexico. There's some in that were found in South America. Some people think it was in Egypt, but those little golden airplanes, they were saying that it was like insects or whatever. No, those were found in South America. And what those things, and they're all made of gold. But the reason why they're not called birds is because if you look at them, they have a rudder on the back end. That's what airplanes have. So what were they looking at? What are they drawing? What are they making out of clay and firing? They have their monster god sitting on a bird, flying around from space to space. You have stories of like King what's his name? King Solomon, right? He had the flying carpet. He was known, and it was crazy is that they even talk about it in Tibet, that King Solomon would fly on his carpet to Tibet. I mean, even Tibet had stories about King Solomon doing that. So that's what's crazy about this whole situation is like there's a connection with all these ancient civilizations everywhere. But again, where are we? Where's mainstream science wants to take us? It's just like, again, it's just rewriting history. You know, we have always talked about this, like how many times of like, you know, so-called the end of civilizations or the reset or whatever. You know, the deluge. You have all that. You know, like, you know, it's Earth, like, I don't know, asteroids hit here. Just like how many times have they said that the world has been, you know, done over, or not the world per se, but, you know, civilization. You know the teaming of human species here on the planet with other life species. But I don't know, man. It's hard to even speculate, to even try to, like, these rabbit holes go deep, and the more you dig, and that's why I love now that, like, the ancient astronaut theory has brought all this to surface. Not that it's all true, but it's brought it to surface, and now we can actually look at this shit with our own eyes and make our own decisions, and not listening to what these guys are trying to, you know, make us think of what's going on, because it's I think like more than half the shit is bullshit anyway. It's just, again, they're just all theories. But again, if you look at history, you read history, it tells a whole different story.
I think so. I agree with you in that his history is, let's say, I don't know. How else do you say it other than there's probably a lot more that we don't know that occurred. I think that's probably the best way to say it. And being diplomatic here. Again, I'm the guy that's supposed to stay, you know, kind of neutral, and, you know, I lean a little bit to the to the stuff we're talking about, in that we just don't know a ton of the things we should know. Like I said, archaeologists, anthropologists are working with 1/10 of 1%, like I said earlier, of the actual evidence that's out there, because a lot of it's underwater. A lot of it's going to be in places that we're inaccessible. You know, whether you believe the plate tectonics thing is just kind of a wash in history away as things move in these huge chunks of time. So I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you in the sense that there's certainly a lot going on that doesn't seem to fit exactly what we're being told, for sure. What about that Elon thing in Mars, man? I'm sure you've heard that. We talked about that probably briefly before, but you heard about Werner von Braun, right? Were you around from when we did that part?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Werner von Braun, he wrote that book in 1952, and he was describing the first settlers on Mars. It was a fictional account, and of course, Werner von Braun was the Nazi that came over and with the Saturn rocket, and was the godfather of NASA, Operation Paperclip. Check it out. And he wrote a book, and he said the government of Mars would be run by somebody with the title of Elon, E-L-O-N. Right? And it's like, what? Is that, again, like, of all the damn names to pluck out of the ether, and then we got Elon Musk, like you were saying earlier, like somebody was saying earlier, that he's just hell bent. He's going, right. It's like I think Robert was saying it, actually, that it seems like he's trying to get home, right? Like he just has this, like, hey, you know, we got to get there, like hell or high water, no matter what, and we're getting there. But yeah, pretty wild that of all the names you could pick, he picked the name Elon as the governmental ruler of a fictional Mars, the first settlers on Mars. That's pretty wild, right?
Yeah, I seen that. That was actually pretty crazy too. Somebody was pulling, and it's an old book too. It was actually pretty crazy, and Elon was like, that's kind of interesting. But again, too, I ran into another video the other day, and this guy was talking about, okay, so if these people have thousands of years, you know, let's just say any kind of race, right? Not just Sumerian, but if they've had, you know, a long lifespan, right? And even though they're here on the planet, and how close we are to our sun, and how, you know, it'll actually speed up their life process, these people would be around very long time through history. And what's interesting too is you see, not only like the thing that I posted a couple times, where I believe the theory of, you know, if we go with this Sumerian, if that story is true, that everybody, all these, you know, civilizations are all just copies of each other, right? That's why you get like these, what they call a doppelganger, and they have a doppelganger in every country. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, you know, Caucasian, if you're, you know, mixed breed, it doesn't matter. There is somebody that looks just like you in another country. And every country, actually. But with that theory, and into that, and then you see like all these ancient drawings or pictures or like paintings, you know, like all these, and what's weird is it's like they always seem to be movie stars or singers or shit like that, you know? Like these people, or like people of, you know, like ruling a country, or people that are like, you know, part of the government. You see that, and there's pictures of these guys that look identical with these guys, you know, and these are thousands of years old. But yet, when you see, you know, like, I don't know if they're clones or whatnot, you know, they'll say, oh, yeah, look, he's, you know, he's aging, oh, he died or something. To me, I ain't too sure, man. I think these, if it is, you know, and again, we talked about this last night, you know, these things might be walking around us, and, you know, we don't even know. I mean, like, again, that goes back to, you know, my story when I served in the Navy, but I don't know, man. That's kind of crazy to think that even like Elon Musk too. I mean, he came like almost out of obscurity, and then now he's, you know, from what he was doing, now he's the richest man in the world. Or you see like these other people, like, you know, movie stars, and they're like, again, these people come out of obscurity and they become multi-billionaires. You know, it's just like poof, like seems like overnight. How? Why? Like, I don't even like some of that shit is like, man, like now this guy's a multi-billionaire. Like how? He was in the limelight for 5 years. Like it's just, these are just like ploys to, like, you know, introduce these people, you know, because they are and they have been throughout history, right? And that's another crazy story too. Another show probably. Yeah, that's insane.
Oops, I muted myself. Yeah, that's a crazy rabbit hole as well. I think the origin story of Elon Musk there is he had PayPal money. He was one of the original folks of PayPal that just got super rich when that thing went nuts, and he peeled the money out and then did all the stuff that supposedly, as far as I'm aware, again, like I said, I'm not an expert, but in all things Elon Musk, but I don't know, the stuff you're saying, I get it. You're describing maybe something more is afoot here than just what it appears to be. So pretty wild stuff. And interesting, you bring up a doppelganger, because we're actually what's up? Shout out to Rivers out there if you're listening, and the Night Stalker. There's going to be a doppelganger show on a deck coming up sometime soon, either tomorrow or next week. So yeah, we'll talk about that, and we'll get into that. And yeah, wild stuff. So if you got to guess, you got to make your best guess here. What do you think this progenitor civilization is?
My best guess scenario again would be, if it ain't the Anunnaki story, and I'm not going to say that they're called the Anunnaki because that's just what, you know, the term given to them. Who knows? They could be a lot of the stuff. Other stuff is not only the Orion's belt, but the Seven Sisters, where, you know, there's a lot of star systems with that. You know, like maybe that's where they came from, right? But I don't know, man. For me, I believe. Well, I wouldn't say believe, because that's giving everything into one thing in one basket, right? So there's many theories, and there's one theory I do like, and that is it. That there is a species that came here back in the day that helped jumpstart the human race. That's why you'll never, ever find the missing link, because there isn't one. It was jump-started. And, you know, and I do believe that there was a time of creation, right? I don't know if you want to call it, you know, like some people want to call it a god or whatever, that created everything, or created, you know, or life just happened from, you know, a spooge out of the, you know, out of the...
Ponsko.
Yeah.
You're cutting out.
That, but okay, now if we're talking that, and right, and there was something here, and then something else, something else, and then that's where we are now. That's what we're finding now, and that's where I believe we're gonna find. I don't know, man. Oh man, it's just, for me, it's like there's too many throughout the time. Okay, when say these that pantheon left, right? The Anunnaki pantheon left. They went back home, right? There was other people that followed behind them. It was because that just keeps going on and on. You know, you have, like I said, you know, it's kind of the theory I said, like maybe there's parts of the universe where they just look human. You know what I mean? Because like even our own galaxy, or actually our own star system here, you know, you have the story of Thor. You know, valiant Thor. He came from Venus, right? He's had 6 fingers. You know, he was he lived. They live have a long. They have a long lifespan, is what they. You know, they're instead of carbon, they're silicon based, right? Then you have like you know, these people that came from Palladians. Palladians, they more or less look like humans. You know, they have like pictures. You know, you also have that story from what's his name with the. I remember his name. He's over in like Europe. He had like one arm or like a half an arm, and he had the Palladians that came and visit him all the time. I have his book too, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. And so it's kind of difficult to say, like, I don't know. But then you have like the weird things that we find in history here, where their gods were like, you know, had an elephant head, or like 6 snake heads, or you know, like I don't know, like it's just if the stories are true that they will be back, I'm waiting on it. And even if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, I will see it even afterwards. Even after this meat has died off, I will find out somehow.
Gotcha. Right on. Right, I'm with you. I'm waiting for the return. Whenever the return is, let's do it. let's cut to the chase, shall we? Let's just make this all happen. I'm ready for it. Yeah, great stuff as always, Kelly. I appreciate you dipping in and going with the deep dives here and bringing evidence. Like I said, I will put up some pictures that Kelly was sharing on the Discord. So if you guys haven't joined that now's the perfect time. Go to troubledminds.org, click the Discord link. Lots of smart people in there just sharing ideas. That's what this is about. It's about sharing ideas. And again, it's to me, like I always say, it's less about the truth. It's more about just kind of considering all the possibilities, because drinking that maybe juice and maybe sort of unlocking your brain from the propaganda cycles, just at least in the very moment of using your brain, as Algorithm says in the chat. What's up, buddy? Use your brain or somebody else will, right? So I'm not an advocate of all the things we talk about. You know this, but it's not up to me. It's always up to you. It's your reality, and you decide. And that's what this is about. You're the best, Kelly. I appreciate it very much. Always a pleasure. Unless you got anything else for us, we got a few minutes left. If you want to add anything else.
Anything else? Let's see. I would just, people that they're kind of questioning some of this stuff. I mean, just take a bigger look, closer look, I should say, at what's really going on. Again, not ancient astronaut theory is all correct. Like I said, I don't believe all 100%, but like I would say 90% of the stuff that they're bringing out, I mean, it's incredible. Like I said, after that happened, things are coming out that people had never even knew existed. People are now seeing the light of what's really, that each country has got to offer of like secrets. Sometimes, maybe it did got buried. Maybe a part of a flood, there is floods that happen. They got, or some of it sank if it's, because most humans, and it's true, the most humans live closer to, the ocean and stuff, cities and stuff. For some reason, right next to water, you'll have, like in Japan, you have those ancient cities that sank underwater. You have, like, the story of Atlantis that sank underwater. Like I said, this planet's alive, and it's constantly shifting and moving. Some things that are, like Atlantis, I think that right there is, that's either sunken or it's part of, like, I would say, like, and maybe even could be part of Antarctica. Antarctica was free of ice at one time. We know that with maps. That's I mean, detailed maps too. That's no joke. So but what's weird about it is a lot of this stuff seems to be that they were in an airplane or a spaceship looking down on Earth and making these maps. And they were pretty accurate. I know some of them, like some sailors that have been around the world. Some of their maps were pretty all right. They have like the basic shape of what the outline of what they're looking at, but some of these, like the Parsees map, in 1500s, that shit looks like it was fucking from outer space. Like, I'm talking detailed maps. I'm talking like, the mountain ranges of like where Antarctica was at, like landing spots, all that shit, So who knows, man? You just don't know, man. So again, just keep an eye out. I mean, check it out. If you got any questions or anybody does got any questions or, Yeah, hit me up. I'm always on the Discord as well.
There you go. There you go. I appreciate it. Kelly in Colorado, good friend of mine. Tell Michelle we said hello. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being part of this, bro. You're the best.
Man, you guys too. You as well, Mike. Have a good one.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So as we end, you guys know how this goes. It's not about truth really anymore. I think we're well past that. Meaning that it's about possibilities to me. It's about considering all the things, because if you don't consider all the things, I think you're leaving something out here. And that's why we talk about it sort of in the format we do, sort of wide, not deep. Which again, I think I can't remember who said that in the chat, but it resonates with me because that's exactly what we're doing. Just considering all of the possibilities, and I am rather enjoy these conversations. So thank you guys for being part of this and spending your time with us Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific, and there you go. That's when we do this stuff. So I don't know. As we finish, like I said, what do you think? What is your thought here? And you decide. This is not, like I said, it's your reality, and so the individuals that control their reality are, of course, you. So do it, do the thing, and control your mind, or someone else will. And there you go. 4 more hours says so much, Jake. 4 more hours. I get tired. I can't do 6 hours at a time. But the good news is we're probably up there with the big boys as far as the most content output per week. So no, there's all go, no quit here. So don't worry about that. We'll be back tomorrow, and 4 more hours. 4 more hours. I stand up, as you guys can tell. I got a standing desk, which is fantastic, by the way. If you guys don't have one, I highly recommend it, and it's done good for me. Not so much sitting for 3 hours or more doing a show like this is starts to hurt your back, right? So standing up could keep the blood flowing. Actually, Aristotle used to say that you do your best thinking standing up. So I think it's a nice parallel that drinking the maybe juice is that quote from also Aristotle. In that, right, it is the thought of it is the mark of an educated mind to consider a thought without accepting it. And there you go. So got a couple quotes on the way out of here. I don't think we have anybody else in the chat. Anything else to add, Daryl, before we take off out here? You're still there in the thing. Actually, your Discord's broken, so maybe never mind. Hold that thought, and I'll get with you a little bit later, and we'll get that fixed. But okay, so that's the deal. All right, so as we finish, I don't know. No answers from me other than possibilities, and that's what's going on. Yeah, the standing maybe juice bar, right? Totally. What's up? Everybody give Algorithm a follow. Links in the description down below. He's got a good dude, Mike in Colorado, got a great channel over there on YouTube. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, we're going to be back to do more of this and talk about some other amazing things. We do have a show coming up with doppelgangers, regarding doppelgangers. That's from Rivers. What's up, Rivers, out there? And what's up, Night Stalker also chipped into that. So we got some other stuff coming. Got some stuff that maybe Jennifer has chipped into the chat there, and James as well. We maybe got a staircase show coming. There's all kinds of stuff that we can talk about because, of course, we're going to keep on doing it. Like I said, as we go, as we continue, as we finish, well, it's not about the truth. It's about the possibilities anymore. So there it is. Smash the button. Let's get the hell out of here. So as it works, as it goes, if you want to help the show, there are a number of ways. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific. That's when you catch us live. Just call in, contribute, give us your ideas, keep an open mind, and remember that, I'm probably wrong, but also that means that sometimes I'm probably right, but it's not about that. But also remember that you're probably right, but also it means you're also probably wrong about some other things. So as long as we kind of keep that in mind, things don't need to get contentious and silly, and we don't need to argue about the truth. Let's just talk possibilities. So as we finish, if you want to help the show, there are a number of ways. You can sub up on Rockfin, on Patreon. You can sub up on Twitch. All those links are in the description below. If you want a Troubled Minds cap, you can find those on troubledfans.com. It's an old inside joke that we kind of concocted on the show. Troubled Fans. You will not find me oiled up on a fuzzy couch, but you will find Troubled Minds caps and more merchandise coming. That's troubledfans.com. Got several sales of hats this week, and the hats have arrived for many people. So it's a process that works, and I appreciate it very much. And there we go. So as we get the hell out of here, the other ways to help the show, if you want to help, you can do that just by listening to the podcast feed. Again, so you got some ads baked in. It's completely free. You can find that on iTunes or Spotify, any of the rest of that stuff, and just listen to it while maybe an old show while you're making dinner or something, because there's a lot of really good stuff in that podcast feed. Currently 386 episodes deep. Yeah, that's a lot, and a lot of good stuff there. So go check it out. You can support the show that way. Just listen to the podcast, and also just spread the word. Spread the word. But the most important thing, as always, is just spending your time and energy here in this moment with us, being open-minded, considering that what other people may have to say, and kind of taking it into account. That it means a lot to me. Thanks, guys, for being enthusiastic about all this. Thanks for all the amazing input. Special thanks to Kelly for popping in here for most of the last hour and covering a bunch of the stuff. There we go. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. We'll be back tomorrow night. The bad news is we're done. The good news is, God willing, we've got tomorrow. And of course, that's for my good friend Jay in New York. And also is this. Oh, one more quote. I had one more quote for the outro. We are consciousness incarnated in stardust with Graham Hancock. Here's another one. Mark Twain said, "It's no wonder that truth is stranger than fiction. Fiction has to make sense." All right. Time to bounce. What's up, Larry, in the chat? I see you there, buddy. What's up, Don? What's up? Who else did I miss? What's up? We got the famous Liam Martin. What's going on, guys? Somebody else over on Rockfin I missed. Anyway, it goes like this. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.